Okay, good to see you.
That hurts.
Sorry. They're your color. Orange is your color.
Stealing Greatness. Jordan was Stealing Greatness, and he founded the Balloon Boom, like the Blue Group.
Yeah. Oh, great.
He's at it like keyboard.
And what do they call it? Maroon.
Balloon Boom.
Okay.
Great.
So,
Love it.
but he's at their first game right now, and he was sending me a video of it. He's like, they don't really have the chanting down. There's just a lot of banging on drums. It's a lot of like, and I'm like, well, he'll get there by 12:03.
That's all right.
Okay, are we ready to call the meeting to order?
He will.
Okay. We will call the meeting to order at 6:09. Thank you for your patience. Please join me to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. My remarks are very brief tonight. I just want to wish everyone who celebrates a happy New Year, Lashana Tova. I want to wish the football team good luck in their matchup tonight against Hazelwood East. And I would like to encourage, no, it's tonight.
Two Hazelwoods.
We have two Hazelwood teams. Oh, sorry. That's all right.
Peter calling me out. And I'm like, I did look it up. And encourage everyone to come out to the homecoming festivities next week. The homecoming parade will start at the middle school next Monday, the 29th, and 25th, 29th at 5 o'clock. Okay, thank you. Kimberly's giving me signals. And line the parade route on Conway. And please bring a can for the Hunger Outreach Project.
To what?
To the bonfire, to the Powder Puff game, if you come to that. Thank you. I see you.
Hazelwood East.
No, Powder Puff game is junior girls against senior girls. I've got a whole peanut gallery tonight. Yeah. Okay. And so it's going to be a really great homecoming week, and we hope the whole district will come out. Also, if you haven't signed up yet, you can still sign up for the Do Run on Saturday morning. If you're really into running, you can do a 5K, you could do a 1K, you can just come and hang out. It'll be a really fun morning. So that's all I have, Dr. Whipke.
We are off to a wonderful start. Good evening, everyone. Thank you,
Hi.
thank you, thank you. Leave it to our teachers to help me out there. I appreciate that. All right. We do have a full agenda tonight, so I'll keep my comments semi-brief. But as you know, we're nearing the end of September, and it's clear that a lot is happening in Ladue schools. In fact, at our last board meeting, we took a short recess, and we went outside to experience Ladue Night Lights. Hi, guys. All right. You all did a wonderful job, and we'll get to recognize you here in just a few minutes. This past week, we had the opportunity, I had the opportunity to attend a Midwest Administrative Association for School Superintendents Conference. I want to thank the board for allowing me to continue my professional development. There were great sessions, but you won't find it surprising that most of the sessions focused on legislation and also focused on public school funding. We've been moving forward to exploration of our admin center, right? Or a new admin center. You'll hear a presentation today from Cordigan and Clark. We're excited about that presentation. I want to thank the Board of Education. I think it's important that the community knows that every board member here took some time with Cordigan and Clark to share their opinions on the administrative center. So we're excited to hear this presentation. And another area of focus has been our K through 12 counseling program. Tonight you'll hear from our high school and our college and career counselors. As you recall, Dr. TJ coordinated a presentation last year from our counseling team that was both informative and a little bit eye-opening. I want to thank Dr. TJ for your continued leadership on this front. One of the follow-ups from that discussion was to provide the board with an opportunity to hear directly from our college and career counselors, and we're looking forward to the conversation this evening. Later this year, you'll also hear again from Tiffany and also myself, and we're going to bring forward some additional ideas surrounded around the K-12 counseling program and some additional areas of support that we can provide them as a Board of Education. Finally, I want to take a moment to thank our community for its patience as we've had to address some issues with our Centegic badges. I know that we've had some recent false alarms and that they've caused some unnecessary stress and concern for our students, staff, and families. On behalf of the district, I sincerely apologize for the disruption and worry these alarms have caused. I do believe we have the situation resolved, and we're looking forward to having some weeks go by without any false alarms. So everybody keep your fingers crossed, but I do believe we have everything taken care of. So with that being said, those are my comments. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Whipke. Are there any committee or school liaison reports?
I have a very quick one that is not Reed specific. I just wanted to highlight Dr. Wallace and thank him for the growth in the Olivet Rec League. If anyone here is ever over at Stacy Park on a Saturday morning, it is packed and it is wonderful. And it has really grown, and it really is a community. There are not only schools from Ladue, but U City, Emmanuel Lutheran, MICDS, community. So it is wonderful. It's not just our kids, but it's kids throughout the area, and it really is wonderful. And I appreciate Dr. Wallace working with Olivet Parks and Rec to just make sure it continues to be safe and successful as we approach the basketball season. So that's it. Thank you.
Amy?
I was pleased to sit in with the District Diversity Committee. I believe it was last week. I was very excited to hear and learn a lot from all of the teams from schools around the district, working on implementation of the No Place for Hate program, and also just kind of getting to know more about how we're really digging deep and really implementing our commitment to diversity in this district. So it was, I appreciated being part of it.
I just have a couple of things. One, we had the SSD Governing Council meeting earlier this week. We traditionally would have approved the budget. However, there were some changes or a change or something that got missed. So it has to go back to their board before it can come back to the Governing Council for final approval. Also, I would like to make sure that I'm encouraging all of us, if your schedules permit, to attend the MSBA annual conference, which is coming up October 22nd. And then on yesterday, just happenstance, I happened to be walking past the TV and the Sherry Shepherd show was on. And who did I see but our very own Dr. Stacy Carlock skating through. And Sherry put on skates in honor of her and skated through her office with her staff. So I just want to say joy is spreading, and congratulations again to Dr. Stacy Carluck for being acknowledged for creating the happiest place on earth over at LECC.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to student and staff recognition.
Good evening to our Board of Education and to the Ladue Schools community. I am Kimberly McKenzie, Director of Communications, and this is my favorite part of the meeting, no offense. Not yet, not that one yet. So for the first part of the recognition, I'd like to recognize some students who are just amazing. I tell you, I came to get to know these students just by happenstance, normal course of doing my work. And they are the executive committee for the Ladue Night Lights. So this was the 5th time that this event has been held. And let me tell you, they did not miss a beat. These students were just on it, everything from fundraising to planning to communications, and they were giving me communication timelines. It was amazing. They really did a wonderful job negotiating. I just saw all type of leadership skills in play with this group. They even got the t-shirts for free. I was blown over by the amount of work that they had put in. So some of them that put in the work behind the scenes and some that were there in front. So there were a lot of student volunteers, but I felt the need to recognize the executive board. So I'd like to first call up Kate Lackey. She's one of the executive directors, she and Maddox Wolf. If you could stand right over there. And Maddox is a football player, so he couldn't be here. He's at his football game, but we'll make sure that he gets his recognition. I like to also bring up Allison, but she likes to be called Allie Glidewell. She was public relations and fundraising. And she did an amazing job. And let me tell you, this one right here, I would definitely hire her in a heartbeat to work in my departments in PR. I like to also invite Emily Rosen. She was our buddy coordinator and did all the work with our Buddy International team, Best Buddies International. And then I'd like to invite Manon Hernandez to come forward. She and Joshua Brown took care of all of the entertainment. Congratulations. And I'll make sure that Joshua also gets his certificate. He's also at the football game. And I also want to acknowledge their sponsor, Miss Maureen Rocco, who's here today. Please stand. Thank you for all of your support and guidance. And then I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Mr. Greg Kendall. So Greg Kendall and I, we also helped support this event with Ms. Rocco, and it was truly a pleasure and an honor, and I will work with them any day. And let me just tell you this, they raised over $7,000 for the Best Buddies program. And Ms. Rocco tells me that part of the proceeds were donated to Best Buddies International, but they're also going to disseminate some of the programs to allow students to attend a camp program. Leadership conferences for the Best Buddies program for students within our district. So it's just amazing. So thank you. Let's give these ladies on this executive planning committee a hand, as well as Joshua and Maddox, who couldn't be here. All right. Thank you. Did you give them their pens? Yes. Okay. Congratulate. Wait.
I was just going to acknowledge the kids and that the event was actually originally scheduled for tonight, and they at very last minute were notified that it was rescheduled for over 2 weeks ago. So they threw things together in a really short timeline and did a really great job. So that's just something extra I wanted everybody to know about.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you again. And let's give a hand for the parents, because the parents were also very supportive. So if you were a parent of any of these students, please stand. If you all would please acknowledge our parents as well for their support. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Layla Crabtree, Dr. Crabtree, to come forward for our staff recognition.
Good evening. Ladue has a rich tradition of honoring excellence in education. I am thrilled that we continue this tradition monthly here at our Board of Education meetings. There is no harder job than that of a teacher. Those in education show up daily, selflessly giving their all in service to their students. Therefore, it is no small feat when a teacher's actions go so above and beyond to garner the respect of their peers. Our Excellence in Education program aims to recognize members of our certified staff who have consistently gone above and beyond for students, colleagues, and our school community. Tonight, we are pleased to recognize Ms. Riley Keltner, Ladue High School Social Studies teacher. I knew there was going to be a big reaction, so I paused for the effect. Riley not only leads in the classroom, but also represents our staff as the vice president of the Ladue Educators Association. Whether she is being brilliant on her A Push for All podcast, charming students and staff with her hilarious wit, or staying calm and collected while moderating between staff and administration, Riley is one of our best. The video will highlight why Riley was selected for this deserving award. Immediately following the video, Principal Brad Griffith will share more about Riley and her contributions to our school community.
Do we feel like we need one more sort of rehearsal?
Riley is a social studies teacher for us. She has been for the last 8 years. She is also a coach and a colleague and a friend to all.
I think Riley is a professional always. She is a role model to everybody, every adult in this building certainly, about what it means to take your craft seriously and always infuse a little bit of humor and levity into things that you do.
So Riley's role at the high school, I would describe as an anchor for our department. She's the anchor for our building, and I think in a lot of ways she's anchor for the district, because whether it's LEA, meet and confer, coaching, I think a lot of her peers would be stunned to know how much she does for them in so many different ways.
People look to her for leadership, but they also look at her as a friend, someone who is always there to comfort, to support. She shows up for people. There's a reason why she always wins all these awards annoyingly, because she's so good at what she does, and everybody recognizes how great she is as a teacher, but as a friend as well.
Students, when they think of Miss Keltner, they get two things. One, and you cannot fake the first one, it's you either have it or you don't. You have to make kids feel like they are important to you.
They know that when she's asking them how they're doing, or she's bringing in a soccer score or a golf score the next day, it's not a contrived attempt to find a point of connection. It's so genuine, and it's important for our students to see that their teachers can be both kind of models of instruction, but also relatable people.
And number two, the kids know that she has high expectations for them. They know that she cares about them.
She makes the class more engaging. She really does care about having a personal relationship with her students, making sure that all of her students feel valued and appreciated. She's absolutely hilarious. I love her sense of humor. She also has this thing she says where like nobody's cooler in our class than Miss Keltner. So if Miss Keltner can do something, we all can do it. And so that's kind of like also uplifting in itself, gives people the confidence that they can do well in a class that isn't super easy.
Students will always be looking to her for advice. They look to her for someone who can point them in the right direction, both academically, but also just in big life choices that they're looking to make.
You can see her engagement in the way in which she lights up a room. Also, as she walks down the hall, everybody loves Miss Keltner.
Riley deserves this honor. As I've told her many a time in private moments, you are the heart and the soul of not just our department, but what you mean to people in this building.
She cares deeply about the future of this school, and she's taken on roles that people don't always know about to try to, behind the scenes, guide and direct the school in a way that's going to benefit teachers, but also make sure that students are getting the best education they can.
For years, she has been consistently nominated in the building as our Teacher of the Year, and without fail, she also turns down that nomination. And so I thought there is only one opportunity that I get to celebrate Riley Keltner because of how humble she is and how she does not want the attention, as her being our recipient of the Excellence in Education Award for Ladue High School.
Riley, congrats on the Excellence in Education. I can't think of someone more deserving. You've helped me feel so welcome here when I first got here at Ladue, and it's been nothing but fun and enjoyable to be working next to you. It's made me come to realize how I can be a better teacher, and I'm sincerely grateful to you for all your efforts.
Congratulations. I hope that you can accept this honor as a real testament to the things that you do so well. They seem to come naturally, but I think that the most professional and the highest achieving among us often make the most difficult things seem easy. So I'm proud of you. I'm excited to be able to celebrate you in this and in all things. And I'm really honored to be your colleague.
I can't think of anyone who would deserve the Excellence in Education Award more than you. And you've probably done more in your first 10 years than most people do for this building in their entire career. So well deserved, and love you, Riles.
Thank you, Riley, for everything that you do for our kids. Thank you for everything that you do for our staff. You do make this a fantastic place to work, and we're so happy and so proud of you. Well, I get the honor of celebrating Riley even further. So I am so excited tonight that we get the opportunity to celebrate Riley. Riley is joined by her mom and dad, Joan and Greg, older sister Blair, and her Aunt Patty, as well as members from our illustrious social studies department. Riley started teaching with us in 2017, but we knew she was talented because she actually started as a student teacher with us with Chris Saxton in 2015. She has long since recovered from that experience. Chris is joining us tonight. Riley lives in Lindenwood Park area of South City, and she was born and raised in Belleville, Illinois, eventually attending the Truman State University. She earned her master's in history and is currently enrolled in a doctoral program in educational leadership. A little fun-known fact about Riley is that she is actually a constitutional scholar, earning the James Madison Memorial Fellowship to study history in our nation's capital. In addition to history, Riley is our head girls varsity golf course coach, supporting students both inside as well as outside of the classroom. More recently, she's taken the show to the road. Riley, along with Mike Hill and Zach Garrison, started a new podcast, A Push for All. That's A Push for All. Subscribe, like, follow, please. Riley, you are a master teacher. You mean so much to so many people in our building. You are an incredible coach, a friend, a colleague, a confidant. You are truly one of the best educators in our building, and I couldn't think of a more excellent educator to represent us at Ladue High School. Congratulations, Riley. And we get pictures and a plaque.
And before we gather for pictures, if you have anything you wanted to say.
A hot mic at my place of employment. Great. Well, I just want to say thank you so much to all of my colleagues who are here tonight. I know that in my family, I know that there are so many places where everybody could be tonight, and so it really means so much to me. I've been to a few board meetings, so I've seen people make this speech before, and a lot of people always talk about how, I feel like I've heard before they come from a family of teachers and that it was always their dream to be a teacher, and that could not be farther from the truth for me. I actually never wanted to be a teacher, and luckily my parents, who are both lawyers, said, we don't think you should go to law school. Although when I have a bad teaching day, they still say, you know, you could still go to law school. But it wasn't something that I ever really wanted to do. I love history so much. I have such a passion for it. And so I always say I got into teaching for the history, but I will stay for the kids. I never knew how much I loved working with kids. And, you know, I'm so fortunate to work with not only my colleagues, but my friends. I mean, so many of those pictures that we saw are just me hanging out with my friends who just happen to be my colleagues, and Mike, who's my work dad, and Chris, who's also will always be my work dad. I was just thinking about Chris today, like Brad said, oh, you're gonna have to maybe say a few words tonight, and so I'm just kind of thinking about the last 10 years, and I went to make copies, and I remember when I was student teaching with Chris, and he said, okay, go make 50 copies of this, and you know, he would always do that no matter if I was a student teacher or not, go make me my copies. But I remember scanning his ID in 2015 being like, wait a second, what button do I push? What is it, 1 to 2 or 2 to 1? I can't remember what he said, and how far have we come? I know how to make the copies now, and to be under his sort of tutelage, and everybody in my department I learned something every single day from them, whether it's a new lesson idea or 403Bs or about the financial decisions I should be making. You know, it's so amazing to come here every day and to be lifted up by them. So I feel just so fortunate to be around such an amazing group of people, and to the administrators in this building, Brad and Andy and everybody else who really just allow us to teach. You know, that's all I want to do is teach. There's nothing else that I want to do. So to have the autonomy and to have the trust that we can do what we need to do has just been such a great thing to have here. So thank you to everybody for coming, and very touched. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite her family, not the work family yet. Mom, dad, aunt, babies. Now, of course, you want to do the students first? Students?
Do I have students here for me?
Do you have students? And then if the rest of you, all the rest of the high school family could start moving forward. All right, high school family.
Hello there. Why are you wearing flip-flops? Nice outfit. Put shoes on, Dominic, please. Nice flip-flops. Put your toes away, Dominic, please. Mr. Dominic. Emily, don't put it on your stuff. I'm not leaving. Anyone else? Nice flip-flops, pumpkin. Put your toes away, sweetheart.
One with and one
with and one without.
One with. Don't cover your face. Mark, don't cover your face. Squeeze underneath. All right, everyone cover your face now. Okay. Oh, that's funny.
I'm terrified.
All right.
Thanks, Brad. Do talk about really important things.
I will, for sure.
Hey, Katie, she'd like to take a picture with you. Yeah. Hurry. Anyone else from LEA?
Jen Hardigan, get back up here. And now we're awkwardly in the background.
Got him. You got yours?
Thank you all so much.
Bye. Looking good in the shades, Mr. Hill.
Is Deborah here?
Deborah?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on one second. She had a public comment, but it's not on the agenda. Pause one moment.
The one we banned here. Can she tie it to, is there any like safety in the policies? Is there anything in the policies about safety? I just feel bad when people come.
There's an asphalt, bikes go on asphalt. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. All right, are we ready to open the tax hearing? Dr. Macy? We're opening the tax hearing, Dr. Macy. I won't ask it as a question.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank
Good
you for
evening.
the opportunity to present the 25-26 tax rate hearing. This is the second reading for this. I do appreciate that this board does their due diligence, and we actually do a preparation meeting, and we discuss the tax rate in open session prior to the actual hearing. It is state requirement that the school district files a tax rate every year by October 1st in order to appreciate the local revenues. And we're going to get into a little bit later the importance of that based off of the school district's budget. All right, so we do have our final numbers. I know that when we discussed this at our last board meeting, we were waiting on the Board of Equalization, and the Board of Equalization tries to settle any tax rate or any tax protests in the year prior to the billing. So we could see some slight adjustments beyond this point, but based off of the Board of Equalization, the numbers that we use to set the tax rate are as follows. So we have seen an increase overall to our assessed valuation of $335.9 million. That number is approximately 16%, but just as a reminder, property is reassessed on a 2-year basis. So when we look at that increase, we really break it off over 2 years. Personal property has decreased by $4.2 million. We do anticipate this to be the normal cycle. Personal property prior to COVID always went down. Your cars were typically not worth more in the coinciding year. We will pay attention to some of the tariffs to see if that has an impact on next year's numbers, but we have seen kind of an equalized trend over the past couple years with a slight decrease to the personal property. Residential property has increased by $282 million. Commercial has increased by $48 million. I will tell you that since I've been here, we've been pretty flat with the commercial, so this is not a typical increase. But when you put when you put that increase into the equation, what it does is it drives the tax rate down. CPI this year, based off of the calculation, is 2.9%, and our estimating operating revenue increase is approximately $7.9 million. Our assessed valuation from new construction is $9.3 million. We call that out and we pull that out separately because new construction is assessed at the actual price of the assessment. So it's a one time and the one and only time that it's not applied to the Hancock amendment, so the property doesn't roll back. So our revenue from new construction is approximately $256,000. When we look at our AV, you can see the trend. We see those increases in those reassessment years, and then they plateau, they flatten out. So we appreciate that increase, and we try to build it into the budget over the next 2 fiscal years. I went one too far. Uh-oh. I'm going to stop clicking. Can you go one more? Perfect. So we run the calculation through the calculator with the state auditor's office, and our calculator rates came back as followed. Residential, 234, commercial, 281. Agriculture, which is a very small sliver of property in the district, is just right at 0.01. And then personal property is 324. When we look at debt service is not only driven by the assessed valuation, but it's also driven by the debt itself. So the calculation for our debt service levy was actually $1.43. We are rolling that back. We're asking the board to voluntarily roll that back to 0.86 cents as part of the Prop L promise. The reason why that levy calculated at a much higher amount is that this is a very heavy year in terms of eliminating some bond debt. So we have some debt that will actually roll off the district's books in 2027, which will pull that 143 down. So we do believe that 0.86 cents is going to be a good number for years to come in order to pay off the Prop L bonds. All right, our recommended tax rates are slightly different than what our calculation is, and that's because Ladue has the lowest tax rate in St. Louis County. So per Amendment 2 and per state statute, we do levy the minimum required levies in all of our subclasses if they calculate below that. So our proposed residential rates in 24 were $275 for residential. We're proposing the same thing for residential in 25. Commercial has gone down based off of CPI and putting that assessed valuation in the calculation. So we're actually recommending the maximum ceiling that we can recommend. So the calculation said the most that we can levy in commercial is 281, but it's a significant decrease from 24, which was 316. Agriculture, we're going to ask again to maintain 275. Personal property, 324 is not subject to Hancock, so personal property is always 324. And then our debt service, we're going to ask the board to voluntarily roll that back to the 0.86 cents. Couple things to consider every year when we set the tax rate, and it's always nice for us to revisit because these are things that we may revisit throughout the fiscal year. In 2025 right now, we currently have approximately $10.5 million in tax protests. So some of those taxes that were protested have been settled through the Board of Equalization process, but some of them will continue to be settled throughout the course of the fiscal year, next year, and then years to even follow. Sometimes it takes several years for some of these to be settled. We bring that to the board's attention because every year we file a friendly lawsuit and we ask that St. Louis County provide us the whole amount of whatever those protested taxes are. If a taxpayer protests their taxes, they still pay their taxes, they place it in escrow, and they wait until the hearing. If their taxes are reduced, then they receive a refund from the county, which essentially is a deduct in future years. So if we see our protested taxes and 3 million of that 10.5 million is settled and those taxes are actually reduced, we would see a reduction to future payments next year, the year after, and so forth. So again, it's just something to revisit, something to keep our eye on. We do have the opportunity to file a recoupment calculation and levy a recoupment rate. I will tell the board that I went through that process again. We did it 3 years ago. I went through that process again, and we currently don't have any recoupment out there. So we have a clean slate. We've been able to achieve those benchmarks, but we will continue to calculate those as they continue to come about every 3 years. This is our operating tax rate over time. You can see that we're in that point now where if trend continues, I think we're 2 years away probably potentially from having 275 across all subcategories with the exception of personal property and debt service. So we are trending in that direction, and I'll double check it, but last I checked, we do have the lowest tax rate in St. Louis County. Another couple things to consider. This will be the first year with the implementation of SB 190, which is how the bill was titled at the state, and then St. Louis County implemented Senate Bill 756, which is the senior tax freeze. Property owners who are 62 years or older could apply to have their tax bill frozen. A couple things have changed since this bill passed based off of the county and their ability to kind of customize it and make it however they want to make it. It originally started that it was going to be an annual application process. We've been told that that is no longer the case. So once a resident applies for it, that resident is eligible for that tax freeze until that property is sold to somebody else. Once that property is sold, it will automatically recalibrate with the new homeowners, and it will be assessed right back at the market value, and that tax base will change. We don't have any quantifiable data to tell us exactly what the impact is going to be, so we worked with St. Louis County and the Director of Revenue at the time, and what they told us is that there's 150 qualifying parcels that fall within our district. 43% of all residential parcels, that could yield an annual decrease of approximately 1.2 million. Now that would be with 100% participation using census data. We do put that there because it's the best number that we have, but we will anxiously be tracking that this year to see what that actually yields. And you break that out over 10 years, it's 12.9 million.
Sorry, Dr. Macy, I just wanted to point out, and I appreciate this, because it seems like that is an overly conservative estimate, because that assumes no home sales between individuals who are 62 and older over the next 10 years, which is possible, but highly unlikely. And so, but I do appreciate, because it does give us sort of the kind of the maximum projected impact of that bill on our district's collection.
Yep, no, thank you. Another bill we're tracking is SB 3. SB 3 is a bill that was passed that will actually provide counties, not St. Louis County. It was not part of the law. St. Louis County was not included, but many of the surrounding counties, Jefferson, Franklin, Washington, a lot of those areas will be voting collectively as communities to vote to either freeze their taxes or to implement a 5% cap. So we are anxiously tracking that information as well. There has been some talk about the constitutionality of that, and there could potentially be some lawsuits. But nonetheless, this is something we're going to have to keep an eye on, because even if it doesn't go through at this point in time, this is the type of legislation that we've seen the last 2 years. So something that we'll definitely be bringing to the board's attention on a regular basis. The last one is the last go around, the legislative special subcommittee session. Originally, we anticipated that there was going to be some amendments to the Missouri Constitution brought forth for vote. They actually did not bring them this cycle, but these are very similar to some of the scenarios that we've had to run and present data to Jefferson City in the way of fiscal notes. So HJR 5 and 6 would eliminate personal property tax for the Ladue School District. Personal property tax is between an $8.5 million and a $9 million revenue on an annual basis. So the elimination of that would definitely create some challenges. There was talk about rolling that into residential assessed valuation. But again, with that, there's going to be challenges because tax rates will recalibrate. Everything will be subject to Hancock. And we would see what I would categorize as a significant shift and a change in the rates that we're able to collect revenue. HJR 7 was adjusting gaming revenues from 100% allocation for education to 90% for education and 10% for the Veterans Fund. This is that fund that we talked about that even though it's 100%, it's always a fixed number at the beginning of the year that never goes up or down. So we're still trying to process what that looks like in terms of are we really collecting 100%? What does 90% of that look like? We deduct from that a 10% reduction to the classroom trust for the Ladue School District would be about $100,000. But when you look at that in other districts that are more reliant on state aid, that would be a significant deduct. And then HJR 8 would adopt previously granted tax credits into the Missouri Constitution. So Senate Bill 190, things of that nature would actually become part of the Constitution, which would make them exceptionally challenging to overturn in the future and or make adjustments. So the tax rate, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, the tax rate is one of the single most important functions of the school board, and for the Ladue School Board, it is even that much more significant. We are 94% locally funded, so this hearing does essentially serve as the foundation for our budget going forward. Any questions?
Is there any public comment related to the tax hearing? Seeing none and seeing no questions from the board, last chances. I'm going to close the tax rate hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on in the agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Second.
Thank you, Keisha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And now we will move on to our action items. We are going to be voting on the operating and debt tax levies that Dr. Macy just presented. Sorry, you thought you got to sit down. Is there a motion to approve the operating and debt tax levies as presented by Dr. Macy?
So moved.
Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Pablo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is the superintendent search firm contract. You all had the chance to look at the contract, but we do need to vote on it to move forward with MSBA as our chosen search firm. So are there any questions about the contract that have not been addressed? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the contract as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Peter. So exciting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we have quite a few policy updates that we are going to vote on. I don't know who wants to go first.
How about I jump in
You're all
while
just
they're
racing
walking
to the
up?
podium.
I have two policies, just as a reminder to you, because we already presented these in information, but BBBA, that is the one where they added in the language that in order to be a board member, you cannot be convicted or convicted of assault, second degree, under the offense of harassment, first or second degree, where such an assault or harassment has occurred on school district grounds. So that is, obviously, we're asking that that be approved as presented. And then I have policy BDA, and we noticed just a clerical error in this policy because we typically have our board meetings on the second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday. So it had stated Monday rather than Wednesday, so we're just asking that. We type it out as we have them. So I'd ask that that be approved.
And I think we can just do them all and then vote at the end.
I think so.
Who's next? Don't fight for it.
All right, I don't know who's up next, but I'm going to pop in with mine. So I am GBH, Dr. Brown, Staff Student Relations. So this is just an update to our current policy that we have, and it has more specifics for our staff to be able to follow, and it's what we have been presenting to our staff this fall as we've gone around and talked with them. GBE is Staff Health and Safety, and this was just a recommendation from MSBA to clean up some language, redundant language that was in there. Policy GCBDA and GDBDA basically is just providing clarity around the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, which by law we have to do certain things. Most of the changes, as you remember, are really in the procedure. And so I am just recommending that all 4 of these policies be approved as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Helm.
I have policy EGAA on copyright compliance. This is a combined policy with Kimberly McKenzie, just updating copyright compliance, particularly around sharing works through virtual learning. So I recommend that we adopt this policy as presented. Next, I have policy IGBB, programs for gifted students. This has just been updated for brevity and clarity. I again recommend that we adopt this policy as presented. Policy IGBI, homeschooling and other educational options. This policy has been updated to align with Senate Bill 63, which removes a family's need to provide written declaration when they are homeschooling. I recommend we adopt this policy as presented. Policy IGCD, virtual courses. This policy has been updated to ensure that students who are moved to virtual courses due to misbehavior or disciplinary issues will be provided with due process when required by law. I recommend we adopt this policy as presented. Policy IGCDA, full-time MOCAP virtual courses. Again, this policy has been updated to comply with Senate Bill 63, where all resident students are allowed to participate in athletics, fine arts activities, and co-curricular activities as long as they meet the eligibility criteria. I recommend we adopt this policy as presented by MSBA. And my final policy is policy IGD, district-sponsored extracurricular activities and groups. The updates to this policy comply with Senate Bill 39 that prohibits athletes from competing in athletic competitions designed for the biological sex opposite to the biological sex stated on the student's birth certificate. I recommend that we adopt this policy with modifications. We are going to use the following wording, that the district is in compliance with Senate Bill 39 as long as it is active in the Missouri legislature.
Thank you, Dr. Crabtree.
Good evening. I have one policy, KK, and this policy is regarding visitors on property, and there's an update to this policy to add an appeals process in case we need to expel or prohibit someone from coming to our property. So I ask the board to approve this policy as presented by MSBA.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace.
I have policy KB, which is a public information program policy, and primarily they're wanting to update this policy to meet with the expectations of the Missouri School Improvement Plan version 6, and it's around communications, and it really is updating to allow two-way communication, reliable communication with all stakeholders, and I recommend that the board approves this update because the district is already in compliance with this policy.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2025B and 2025C board policy updates? Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, the accurate asphalt pay application. Jeff's on the move tonight.
All right, we continue to move along with our projects that we started this summer. This first one is the high school parking lot. As a quick reminder, we were able to get the paving in the new addition completed. We were able to completely mill and repave the south lot, and we will work on the north lot as soon as we have enough consecutive time in between to close out that project. We will be starting the exterior lighting and some of the landscaping once we have the water turned on by Missouri American Water. So you will see some continuous upgrades here before it gets too cold on developing that land there. So this is pay application number 2. We would ask the board approve the pay application number 2 for accurate asphalt.
Are there any questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the pay application to Accurate Asphalt in the amount of $165,317.67?
So moved.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Keisha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And the Vernon Jones pay application.
All right, our 5th grade center, one of our busiest campuses, and we are really busy right now at drop-off. We are working on the continuous pour of the tennis courts that Mike Noonan has been writing about in the weekend update. It truly is remarkable seeing all of the infrastructure and the steel bars that went into this in order to ensure that we have a high quality, just an incredible tennis court and tennis facility out there. So they began that process. It is a continuous pour with stopping points at very specific and prescribed spots so that the concrete can cure and that the surface is 100% ready for us to go. We actually did receive some pictures today. It was a little bit too late to get them into this particular board packet, but we will run them in the next, at the next opportunity when we have a pay application, but we'll go ahead and include them in the weekend update because I know that everybody sees the tennis courts right now, but I think you're going to be pretty impressed when you see what's actually happening there on that lower tier where the baseball and softball field's going to go. So we are moving right along with that project. So we would ask the board to approve the pay application for Vernon Jones.
Oh. Thank you, Keisha. I thought there was a question.
No, second.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. In the amount of approve the Vernon Jones pay application in the amount of $679,250. We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Okay. Now moving on to the information portion of our meeting. I'm excited to hear the college and career presentation from Dr. Taylor Johnson and Mr. Sisk and Ms. Redden.
I'm actually pinch hitting here in introducing for Dr. TJ. I actually asked Brad and his team to put the presentation together, so I should have been the one on the list there. So basically, I already introduced the purpose behind this. We had some additional questions from the board. And so I asked Brad and his team of college and career specialists to put together a presentation kind of coinciding with the questions that we had after the last presentation that Dr. TJ and the counseling team put together. So this is their opportunity to answer some of the questions and gives us an opportunity to have some dialogue with our college and career counselors. So welcome aboard, you guys.
Good evening. I just wanted to introduce Dr. Diana Redden and Mr. Chad Sisk, our college and career advisors. They are here this evening to share insight into some of the work that's happening at the high school with college and career and some of the new additions that we've put in place this year, as well as future plans.
Thank you, Dr. TJ, and thank you to Dr. Whipke and the board for allowing us this opportunity to come and speak with you this evening. We've got I think some great information that will hopefully kind of provide some context to which the work that we are doing in our office exists. So there we go. My apologies if the wording on here is a little bit small, but what we have here are two different comparisons. The one on the left is aggregate data from the years 2015 to the year 2025. Sort of the top half shows the percentage of our students who are college bound in one form or another. So we've got the 2-year, the 4-year, career and tech ed, college prep, those types of things. If you look at the aggregate data, it shows roughly 90% of our students from 2015 to 2025 have been college bound. On the right-hand side, this is specific for our class of 2025. So again, we have the 2-year, the 4-year, the apprenticeship program, all of the sort of traditional collegiate types of programs. And if you kind of add that number together, we're again right around 90%, I think just shy of that 90%. I think it's important to note with these two graphs here that in 2015, this was prior to my time at Ladue, but my understanding was that our student body population was closer to approximately 1,200 students or so. So in roughly 10 years, now our student body population is roughly 1,400. So we've increased by roughly 200 students here at the high school, but our numbers have stayed relatively similar. You know, we're still roughly at that 90% college-going population. The bottom section of each graph shows the number of students who go off into employment or the military, some students who are undecided. I have to admit that there's always a little bit of noise in these numbers because oftentimes these are the students that don't report back to us. All of this data is self-reported, so there are some students that we will occasionally not hear back from. We've missed them in our attempts to try and get the information from those students. But you can see that outside of college, we do have some students that are going into the military. We have students who are doing directly into the workforce. So again, 90% college-going population, but we do have a number of our students who are not going that traditional 2- or 4-year college pathway. Okay, again, I apologize for this being very small. Wanted to try and get this all onto one slide for you. This is the college outcomes specifically for the class of 2025. If you look at the very top, we've got like Boston University all the way down to Yale University, and it's alphabetical. But I think if you take a closer look at this, the important thing that this shows is the wide variety of types of institutions that our students are attending. I don't remember the exact number, but roughly 325 students or so in the graduating class of 2025. And I think the number of colleges that they attended was about 113 total. Roughly 51% of them were out-of-state students, I think, or out-of-state colleges, and about 49% were in-state or somewhere around that range, which is a pretty typical year for us. But again, we've got St. Louis Community College, we've got music conservatories, we've got large flagship institutions, we've got small private liberal arts colleges, we've got just a really, really wide variety of types of institutions. I think that if you held our list of schools up against, you know, high schools across the state, it would be much better in terms of the diversity of types of institutions that our students are attending. So the other thing I will add, and Ms. Redden can hand these out, these numbers right here are specific to the class of 2025. Dr. Redden is handing out a school profile. So this is the 25-26 high school profile, to which we send all of our college applications with one of these, so it provides some context of the high school. On the back side specifically, we've kind of put some aggregate data. This information is specific to the last 4 years of graduating students, and it shows not by any means every single college, but again, the vast array of different types of colleges and universities that our students are attending. So for example, American University, number 9 is that's how many students we've had admitted to American University over that 4-year time frame. And then the 1 in parentheses is the number of students that we've actually had enroll over that 4-year time frame. So again, just kind of showing how wide of a net we're casting with the types of institutions that our students are ultimately attending.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I know some of you know me, some of you don't know me. I am Diana Redden. I work with Alphabet A through K as one of the college and career advisors. I have the pleasure of working for this district. I also have 2 children, a 6th grader and a 4th grader. And hopefully that 6th grader is doing his homework right now. College and career advising. You may have heard or you may not have heard, we just switched platforms. Previously we used Naviance as our career exploration tool, as well as it matched to Common App. This year, the word on the street is School Links. School Links is the new college career exploration tool that we're using, and this slide in particular we shared at our last board meeting in May 2025, but we wanted to share this again and add a couple of other updates to that. So with 9th through 12th grade, we have several universals. So as you can see, our individual career and academic plan, our ICAP, the completion of the Find Your Path assessment in School Links, all students have access to. I actually just talked with Mrs. Sykes, who's one of the school counselors at the middle school, and she introduced this to our 8th graders. So we're really excited that the 9th graders coming in will already know what School Links is and be familiar with it as they come to the high school next school year. The other universal is our Walk-In Wednesdays. Walk-In Wednesdays is a great opportunity for students to come in and ask us questions, Mr. Siskin and myself, and also meet with us if they have any questions. This year, we're very excited for a K through 12 alignment. This is in our 9th through 12th, but we have our financial aid night, which is going to be held February 5th. Put it on your calendars. More information will be shared. It will be held in our PAC, and we want to invite our LECC friends and families up through high school. We will have the Scholarship Foundation present, as well as our Missouri Most, talking about college savings plans. So those are our universals. For our 10th graders and our 9th graders this year, we will have a curriculum night, and we will just talk about what 9th graders and 10th graders should be doing, getting in active, extracurricular activities, maintaining their grades, all very important. For our 11th and 12th grade, you can see the list gets a little longer. We have our 11th grade college and career advising meeting. This year it's going to be on November 6th, and that will also be in our PAC. We'll talk about juniors, what students should be doing junior year. And then following that, after we get back for second semester, between the months of February and May, Mr. Sisk and I will be meeting individually with our junior families. Right now, we've been really busy because we've been meeting with our seniors and having our senior meeting. But, you know, juniors are welcome and seniors are welcome to meet with college representatives as they come. We're very fortunate here at Ladue that we've had over 100 plus colleges come and meet with us. Everything from technical schools to community colleges to state public institutions to HBCUs to private colleges near and far, as well as some international schools as well. So we want the 11th and 12th graders to take advantage of that. We're now meeting with seniors, kind of finalizing, making sure they've got their Common App essays and their teacher recommendations, and you know, kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of things. I like to call senior year getting into the nitty-gritty, junior year just kind of getting the train on the track and moving along. So college and career advising for 24-25. So I'm going to recap what our team did last school year. Mr. Sisk is going to talk in a second about what our future plans are this school year. We met with our lead students once a month. We also met with our Ladue Ops students. We talked about various subject areas. We made sure, well, last year was Naviance, this year it will be School Links. but we made sure that we were answering their questions. We were talking about college, but also other options, career options, savings, investing, all of that. And we've also met with and spoken with students in our investment strategies presentation. I think Mr. Sis talked with them last week. Our Black Studies classes. We try to have as many touch points as we can with our students. So during seminar periods, Parent University, I think we're on schedule again. I'm looking at Dr. Wallace later on this school year. Mr. Sis spoke with our SSD advisory board and gave a presentation. Every school year in April, we have our Parent Association College Trends. That's always really exciting because parents can come and they can come with their own questions, and we're there to answer their questions. Last year, I was proud to take 12 students to 2 HBCUs, Howard University and Bowie State University, and we're always welcome to speak with the village.
On a side note, Dr. Whipke, my Centingix card is here, so I'm forever nervous now that I'm going to like lean up here. So if I hold it like this, please forgive me. So,
hey, a neat strategy, just turn it around backwards.
There you go.
All right, you have it on your back.
And then don't let anyone hit you on the back.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I'm
thank
like
you for
super
being nervous.
I'm sitting over there like holding it in my hands, making sure that I don't squeeze it. So for this year, some new efforts on top of what Dr. Redden had already talked about. Because we did School Links, which is a new program, as she mentioned, we did have sort of a college application workshop. We had about 93 students show up, and we just sort of opened the doors and said, hey, come in, we're going to talk to you a little bit about what School Links does, why you should be utilizing it, and how it can support the college application process for you, and then kind of walk through some of the to-dos that need to be done in order for that to happen. Like I said, we had about 93 students attend that. We do a senior college night, usually the first Thursday of every school year. I think I saw Marissa was there at our evening. Prior to that, we did another sort of informational night for students and parents to just come and ask questions about School Links so that they could, again, better understand what that program is. And we just kind of use it as an open door. You know, you ask questions and we'll talk about some things. And we had about 65 individuals attend that. And then later that evening, we had, I think it was about 213 individuals, not students, but individuals, students and parents come to our senior night. So as Dr. Redden mentioned, one of the things that we're hoping to do this year is looking at expanding our financial aid programming. We always do a financial aid program in the spring of every year, usually in February, and we open it up to sort of 9th and 10th grade students. One of the challenges with that, though, is if you come and hear a financial aid presentation and you have a son or a daughter who's in 9th or 10th grade, it's really, really late in the process to start the savings and everything. So we want to kind of open that up to the entire district so that we can at least be, you know, reaching out to those younger folks and saying, hey, here's what you need to be doing in terms of saving and what that college cost might look like for you in 5, 6, 12 years or whatever the case may be. As I mentioned, the implementation of our School Links platform, which just the feedback that I'm hearing from our students has been very positive so far, and thank you, Marissa, we appreciate that. I think students are engaging with it very well. It's a better platform just visually, and we all know our students are into TikToks and those kinds of things, so I think it's a really great platform for them. We started working earlier this year with our ESOL staff members, and we are working on organizing an opportunity for our ESOL students to go visit a couple colleges that are in the St. Louis metropolitan area. Dr. Redden and I will be presenting in some of the ESOL classes about the college process too. So we're excited about that. And again, hopefully in collaboration with Dr. Wallace, be doing some stuff at Parent University. One of the things that we want to try and do, and if we don't do this through Parent University, but maybe even perhaps a standalone program, is, as I mentioned, we have about 90% of our students are college going, but we do have an important 10% of our students that aren't in that college going population, and we want to make sure that we are presenting information to them on a level that they feel comfortable having those conversations with us if it's not just about college. After all, we are college and career advisors. Another sort of new initiative that we will be working on, our parent college career, kind of a lunch and learn or coffee with the counselors types of things, which hopefully will just be an opportunity for us to open the doors and say, hey, Dr. Redden and I are going to be available on this Wednesday from 9 to 10:30 or whatever. We'd love for you to come by. We may not have a certain topic that we're going to talk about, but again, sort of a walk-in Wednesday kind of concept, but really more intended for our parents than for our students. So those are some of the new initiatives that we're hoping to get going for the 2026 school year. And then last but not least, one of the things that I think is important to point out is in all the efforts that Dr. Redden and I do in terms of working with the students, as much on the individual level as possible, one of the challenges that we have is that our office is also responsible for all of our ACT, SAT, AP test in terms of the testing administration and the accommodations for those tests. So students who need to take that with extended time or other types of accommodations, all of that comes through our office. So just so you have an idea of kind of, I couldn't tell you the exact number of hours that we put forth in those types of efforts, but we do accommodated ACT tests throughout the year. We do it 4 times a year. Every time we do it, it's 4 days. It's not a full day, but in some cases it's 2 or 3 hours, which is a large chunk of our time. This year, something that we're starting to get more and more of is students requesting accommodations for the SAT. Just we historically have not had that, but now we are starting to see more of those accommodations, so we will be working with those students to hopefully be able to provide those accommodated tests for those students as well. We have, last May, we had 24 AP exams that we proctored. Dr. Redden and I have to give a shout out just in public to Ms. Knoll, who's our fantastic administrative assistant who helps coordinate a lot of those things. We had about 1,200 exams over the course of a 2-week period, and then we have a late period. And then on top of the late period, we have a late super secret double probation period, so students can test on a 4th week if they need to. And those are things that we do at the end of May, which, if I could go back to one of the things that I mentioned earlier, was us trying to collect the data. You know, May 1 is the National Candidate Reply Date, which means that students should know by May 1 where they're going. And we all know that that's not always the case. But when we're trying to collect that data, and then boom, we're also doing all the AP stuff. So it provides a little bit of a competition of our time, so to speak. And then we do all of that stuff. Those are things that we do kind of throughout the academic year. So it's an hour today and 2 hours tomorrow and 30 minutes this day and those types of things. I will also point out real quick on the profile that Dr. Redden passed out to you, I believe it's on the front side, it does give a list of all of the AP exams that we administered in the spring of 2025 with what is sort of considered a quote-unquote passing grade. That's a 3 or higher, and the percent of students who are getting a 3 or higher on those AP exams. For those of you who don't know, the AP exams are scored 1 to 5, so 3 being sort of the passing grade, for lack of a better phrase. I won't take credit for those scores because obviously our teachers and students are putting in the effort to get there. And then, of course, we work with the National Merit Program. This year we had, at Ladue High School to begin with, we had 20, and then sort of at the last minute, we actually had 1 student transferred in from another school who was a National Merit, so we ended up with 21, if I'm not mistaken. So we're in the midst of kind of working with our students in that process as well. We're doing the PSAT in October. Again, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Ms. Hayes, Annette Hayes, because she's working with us on that process as well. So,
Just a couple of additions. We do have the early college program, just some pathways for students. I believe Dr. Ashby works with that, but we kind of come along and help alongside that. We have a few students after sophomore year, they have the option to complete their high school diploma as well as their associate's degree at a community college. South Tech, we have partnership with them. We actually have an informational session coming up. So we just wanted to make sure we highlight other pathways. We have our A+ program for students who want to attend a community college or just a safety option. Students have to have a 2.5 GPA, cumulative GPA upon graduation, a 95% attendance rate, 50 hours of unpaid mentoring, tutoring, and must have proficient on Algebra 1 end of course assessment. So a number of our students will volunteer at the Ladue elementary schools, and the feedback from principals has been it's great, and that the younger students really love to see the high schoolers help out. So at this time, we'll open it up. Or did you something
Yeah,
else?
there's one thing I wanted to mention. Back on the slide that had everything that we were doing from 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grades, the one right after that, yeah, thank you, magic slide people, I appreciate that. The one thing that I think is real important to notice too is that our school counselors meet with students in January of every year, and they go over scheduling with all the students on a one-to-one basis. Dr. Redden and I set in on as many of those meetings as we can so that we can provide sort of the collegiate perspective from a scheduling side of things, so that if students do have questions about, well, I'm interested in this one particular college, what types of courses am I going to be better off taking, or should I be encouraged to take? You know, we talk to them about the number of APs they're taking if they're looking at highly selective schools. So we do have those touch points for students, and we do that primarily in 10th and 11th grade, because that's when, as you guys know, our curriculum starts to sort of digress a little bit more, not digress, but I should say vary a little bit more. In 9th grade, most of the students are taking pretty much the same curriculum, and then even in 10th grade, they're taking mostly the same curriculum, although they do have that one AP option. And then 11th grade is really where it starts to kind of change for students. So we do want to be part of those, and we are part of those conversations as well.
I don't have much to add, but I will say that one of the things that we adopted this year as an area of focus in our K through 12 counseling team is to spend time looking at our college and career alignment from K through 12. We started that work this summer, doing some curriculum mapping and determining what new touch points we wanted to offer for students and parents. We have that as an area of focus on our professional development days. And it's a work in progress. So we started it, but some of the work that we're really going to dive into will start taking place in November. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that.
Are there any questions? Well, I just want to say I'm going to give a thumbs up to School Links. I know it's always scary to change, but I really, having a senior, just full disclosure, being in it, I'm meeting with Mr. Sisk tomorrow morning at 7:45, that it is much more clear for parents to see kind of the process that their students are taking. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciated that. Go ahead, Amy.
Hi. We've met before. I did have a question because I appreciated seeing sort of the 9th through 12th grade sort of list of resources that you provide to both students and parents. As a parent, one question that I had was, is there a way to make some of these parent touch points more accessible to parents? So, for example, I really found that the College Trends meeting helpful, and I attended as both a freshman and then a sophomore parent. They're in the morning, and I found it really useful, but 9 a.m. in the morning is not an accessible time for a lot of the parents in our district, and I know you already have a huge imposition on your time, but if there is a way to either build that into other programming, I do think that having that access would be really great for a lot of parents.
The one thing I will say about that is that trends meeting is, as much as it is something that we do, that's really something that the parent organization kind of puts together. So they're the ones that kind of propose the time and say, here's when we would like to do it and those types of things. So I absolutely understand what you're saying, but that's, again, we don't choose the time for that. Usually the parent organization comes to us and says, hey, can you guys do it at this day and this time? And we kind of work on the calendar with them for that. So, yeah.
Thank you for the clarification, and I guess I have a different phone call to make about that.
Yeah, and thank you. And we've added our, 9th grade orientation. So we're looking at ways in the evening, as you mentioned, to speak to families. But noted, and we will continue to find opportunities to address. As a working mom, I definitely understand what you're saying.
I've worked with you guys in the past. You're a great office, and from the looks of things, things are just getting even better. But I just want to make sure, is there a procedure or protocol? Make sure you meet with every senior before they leave?
No. One of the things that we try to do, though, is
between now and sort of December, we try and get through as many of the seniors as we can. And then we will, we've had touch points with students through the LEADS program and those different types of things. So oftentimes the students who aren't the ones that are likely to come to us and say, hey, raise my hand, I want to come and meet with you. Sometimes we'll get to those students via that manner. There are situations in which if we haven't talked to a student throughout the year for any number of reasons, where we will call them in towards the end of the year, try and find out what that outcome is for them and see how we might be able to help. But we don't have a system in which we can promise or guarantee that every single student is going to get that one touch point during their senior year. Yeah, we try to present ourselves as we are open and available to any student. So a lot of it is, if you want to take advantage of that, please do. We probably could do a better job of trying to reach out to those students who aren't going to be the ones that raise their hand and going to them.
One touch point that I think was very helpful this past year with Miss Bobbitt. She went through the list, and if there was a student that she was aware of that we hadn't spoken with, calling that student down and meeting with us. So yeah, Mr. Sidman, yeah, absolutely, that can definitely better be improved. But this past year, 24-25, working with the school counselor, kind of working together with not only the touch points, but with NCAA eligibility and other pieces have been useful. So we'll continue that process.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Three queries, I think. The first is, I heard a phenomenal college preparatory conversation. What do you all feel we're doing around career readiness, career exploration for students as early as we want to start college prompting and querying? So that's one question. And I would say that's a component of this department since time immemorial. So I would offer to you all, I didn't hear it tonight, and what does that look like in terms of career exploration, trade exploration, et cetera? Secondly, I was curious, and I thought I heard, but maybe I didn't, is there any dual enrollment opportunities, or what does that look like, or how do we encourage that for juniors and seniors? And third, I'm curious, and I think this is for many college advising departments across the region, what does matriculation look like at four-year graduation or degree completion? Because often students, I think, often enter school not ready to finish school. And again, that's more of a regional question, but I think it's certainly I think it's something we could look at as a point of success for our students. I would offer, I bet our students are more ready. I think there are students who aren't, but I think that's something we could look at in terms of if our students are ready and being successful in a post-secondary institution, not just entering there in August.
If I may, a couple of things on the, so School Links, the new platform that we're utilizing really has a lot of things on there that are not just college related, but also career and some personal assessments and those types of things that as we start to roll that program out, that I think will be key in helping students sort of explore the career side of things a little bit more. So that's one of the reasons actually that we switched to School Links. So I think that will be helpful kind of moving forward for those students. Yeah.
And so aside from the automated component of that thing, what do you all say?
We're meeting with those students if they want to have those conversations with us about going into career fields. We had, there's a gentleman, I can't think of his name, the organization is called Luna, L-I-U-N-A, and they're based out of Wentzville, I believe it is, and they do a lot of training for construction and construction trades types of things. So we've talked to individuals like that. We have, as Dr. Redden mentioned, our representatives from State Tech, which is down in Lynn, Missouri. So that's a career-oriented type of institution. We took a group of kids last year. Dr. Rapoff and I think it was last year, took a group of kids, about 15 or so kids, to Rankin Tech, which is more of a career type of institution. And sometimes it's not even about, I don't think, exploring that institution, but it's just about exploring, okay, when we're talking about careers, here's some opportunities that students might not have even thought about to begin with.
For sure. So I'd offer, there's things that are occurring and your department's doing. So I think that's equally important to allude that even in a slide, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because there's things that are occurring. I appreciate those notes.
So in School Links, actually State Tech, I think his name is Darwin Hobbs. He's already scheduled with us. He's twofold. He comes and meets with students, so students can sign up in School Links, as well as he comes in and speaks with our lead students, as well as Mr. Sis said with Rankin Tech. Dual enrollment, I mentioned about our early college program that we offer for interested students after sophomore year.
Circle back to, I think Mark's question was, or how it came up about not having a natural appointment time or knowing that you're having face-to-face. And we don't know enough about, we can sort of guess, but you're in the industry. I mean, you have peers all over in I assume all the public schools across the state and the region and probably on the coasts. What is like the standard, do you think, in terms of, I don't want to say comparable high schools, but high schools that are also high achieving, and in terms of connection with every student, whether they're seeking a 4-year post-secondary or if they're looking for an alternative pathway that best suits them. And if you don't have the resources that you need to kind of meet what you think that should be, what is your, professionally, what is your, like, I don't want to offer you say, I don't want to say where, what would you need or what would you think ideally, like if you were to meet that? I guess what I'm saying is do you feel that would be the best standard professionally to know that you are sitting down with all close to 400 students over the course of a school year? And if you're not, is that something that's comparable to your peer groups in other similarly situated high schools?
I mean, knowing what I know, so there's an organization that's sort of a loose organization here in the St. Louis area called SLAC, which is St. Louis Area College Counselors, and we meet quarterly, and it's a lot of the schools that are sort of our peer schools, Lindbergh and Parkway, Clayton and Webster Groves and Kirkwood, basically all of the college and career counselors from sort of the St. Louis metropolitan area. And I think that Ladue is uniquely positioned because we are one of few schools that has a Dr. Redden and Mr. Sis to be able to work with our students. I'm sorry. So I think we're uniquely positioned because we do have Dr. Redden and myself that are working with our students one-on-one. In terms of what's the standard, I think the standard, I would love for the standard to be that we do have that one touch point with every single student, at some point. I just don't know resources. I think that's maybe a larger conversation in terms of what that might look like.
I'm sure you don't want to I'm sure you don't want to put you on the spot to say what that would look like to you, but
I'm certainly willing and able and open to having that conversation with you and with leadership and Mr. Griffiths as well, because I do think that that's an important thing. Absolutely.
And if you were to say it was ideally one touch point, and you're saying senior year is what you think is the ideal touch point, and it's not a junior year, it's not a sophomore year.
Yeah, again, I think it would have to go back to sort of what the overall philosophy of the program would be, because the reality is that we have some students that may not need a touch point from us. For example, if a kid knows that they're going to Mizzou and that application process is relatively straightforward and easy, and if I don't meet with that kid, that's not.
Is there a survey, is there a data collection system where you're kind of sending out to the class and saying, and asking, us those kind of questions? Or is that not, when you mentioned Mrs. Sykes, is getting them ready for the system, which is awesome, but is there a data collection process or a survey like, hey, you're going to the high school, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then that same question in 9th grade, or, sending it to 11th graders, like, do you know what you're doing next year? Have you completed? Do you not know? I mean, do you?
I would say one of the things that we are working on with that K through 12 alignment is to put ourselves in a position to be able to do that.
That's great.
I don't know if they're doing anything, and you might be able to speak to this at the middle school, that we'll get to that. Or, like I said, as we sort of flush out what this K through 12 alignment looks like, I think at some point having that conversation, being able to say to every student, what are your post-secondary goals? Knowing that when they come in as a freshman, so that we can hit the ground running with those individuals. But again, I think that's a larger conversation in terms of how we might make that work. But that's a great question.
But so as it is now, if a family or a student doesn't reach out to you, you are unlikely to have contact with that student.
Yeah.
Which is not your fault.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I would say that we probably have contact with 85, 90% of the
Okay,
students.
so
But yes.
most of our student body is proactive in that way, whether it's,
If the individuals aren't proactive, like Dr. Redden said, there may be a counselor or somebody that brings
Okay.
that student to our attention, or we happen to know of that student through some other means that we can try to reach out to them in that manner. Yeah.
Yeah, I was ditto, ditto, ditto. And to Mr. Griffith's credit, I mean, we're in the lunchroom. We're doing lunch duty. We're at carpool. So we are interacting with students, and I always appreciate the seniors and juniors. Hey, that's Reddit or that's CISC. You know, they're going to be working with you with college and career. So sometimes we have those being out. We're out amongst the students as much as we can. We're not just kind of in our offices, although we meet with students particularly a lot right now. I do credit that we're also, you know, in the building working with senior class. Working with Ujima Rise. So we're trying to connect and meet with students where they are. And I think that also helps us to have those touch points with the students that may not likely come into the office. Of course, there are students that we don't, but we're working toward, like I mentioned earlier, with school counseling and with being present and active around the building.
and I don't want to put words in your mouth. You said that you see about 90% of the class, 80 to 90% of the
Yeah,
class?
I mean, if I had to go back and look at the number of appointments and walk-ins and everything, I think that would be a pretty good rough estimate of the students that we need.
And we're keeping track. Every student that comes in this school year, they're signing in. So we're keeping track of that data, so we can continue to keep the board posted with that information, for sure.
I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, thank you guys. The information has been wonderful. I think Jennifer brought up a really good point just there with you know, the possibility of a survey and what that would look like and how we could go about that. I think we need to entertain looking at that a little bit more. I will also say this is kind of a, you know, it's like the college and career and our counseling, it's changing at a rapid pace. And you know, there's components that are curricular strands, there's components about a college and career, and there's a huge component about health and wellness. And so even though those seem like very different things, when you support those things, in any of those three little strands I just mentioned, it can trickle over into the other one. So let me give you a really good example. The amount of 504s that we have in our district is growing by leaps and bounds. I just sat down with Dr. Taylor Johnson, I think Layla Crabtree was in there. We had counselors come in and they talked to us about the stresses that are on them just around that topic alone and how to meet everyone's needs. So that's why we're really taking a strong look, and I think that, Pablo, to your point, there are career programs that we need to be looking at, and I think even down in middle school, we need to start having these conversations about that. And so the fun part of it all is trying to put together the puzzle in reference to those three strands, or that framework about where do we alleviate some pressure in order to be able to help compensate an area that needs to be strengthened, if that makes sense. So that's what we're looking at doing. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but come January, Dr. Taylor Johnson and I plan on presenting some thoughts and ideas around ways that we can alleviate some maybe gap areas by helping with some areas that we have some tremendous pressure in. So we'll be looking at that more closely. I know you want to say a few words, Dr. Taylor Johnson.
The only thing I was going to say is that you all raised some very good points, and some of the things that we've talked about is earlier access for information for parents and for students. We've had discussion about doing some things earlier at the middle school. That's why we have that providing access with school links, but also some in front of parents and in front of students so that they have some knowledge of some of the programs and things that are being offered here before they get here, so they can have that access and knowledge of what they need to do to make themselves even eligible to participate in some of the things that are being offered. So that is something that we have definitely talked about. Just again, it's not just with the students, but the parents need to know as well. So that is very intentional. And then even earlier, as we're looking at some of the things for our elementary students, exposing them to careers and understanding what they need to know how to do and what their interests are, that is going to be very intentional as well. Again, the work, the conversations have begun. We have some time that we've allocated at some of our meetings as well as our professional development days. And as Dr. Whipke said, just continuing to, again, partner with our CNI department as well to ensure, they talked about data collection. It's really important to know who's coming and who's not and how we're recording that data also.
So I had a couple questions. Some of them have already been answered, but I did have one question. I know that I was a strong advocate for the St. Louis Community College dual enrollment. Do we know how many students we have currently enrolled in that program?
Are you talking about that early, in the early college program?
Is that the one where they graduate with the associate's degree?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
7.
7. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's something that we should, try to highlight more. I think that you all are doing a tremendous job, having had a last grad was 2019, but it did not look like this. So I'm glad to see some of the improvements and the modifications and access. The one thing I also wanted to know was, you mentioned that the students meet with their counselors, and then they meet with you, and you try and sit in on those meetings. How often are we seeing possible course corrections that are needed to meet student needs? Say, for instance, and I know it's difficult, especially when we get into math classes and things like that, but we changed some curriculum to try and fix that. So I'm just trying to wonder, are we still seeing some of that where students may not be enrolled in the right courses if they're trying to go down, say, an engineering path or even a sports path, just to make sure that we're meeting their needs?
Yeah, I couldn't give you a specific number on that, but just anecdotally speaking, I think that one of the things that we've tried to do since I've been here and since Dr. Redden has been here is work much closer with the school counselors, so that if the school counselors, are working with a young man or a young lady and say, hey, we have some questions about, does this make sense for this student if they're going to these colleges or whatever the case may be, we're working very closely with them to try and avoid the situations where we have to do those class changes, although it does happen occasionally. But I think the school counselors and I, again, with Dr. Redden, that collaboration between the two offices that we've seen over the past handful of years has really helped sort of alleviate some of that, although it does still exist, I think, on a much smaller scale, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And then I did have a question. I know, and Dr. TJ, you just kind of mentioned what I had written down, is that as far as we're talking about career and technical education and different fields and, exploration of the trades and different career paths, that we do go to the middle school, but also maybe even just as implementation in career days. And this is not necessarily you all going on a road show, but just that if we're doing a K through 12 alignment, that there is alignment from K through 12 to explore all career paths, including those that don't necessarily include a 4-year college degree. And then also scholarships. So you mentioned a lot about access, and I know that a lot of time is dedicated to access and making sure that people get into the right college. But how much more time do we spend on scholarships and funding opportunities outside of the one night where parents who may not necessarily have the funding secured, which may kind of lead to we don't really know. I guess we'll go to UMSL or, you know, I'm not the UMSL, I'm a Triton, so let me not diminish the University of Missouri St. Louis. But I think that, you know, how do we make sure that we're also giving that access in terms of the funding that goes along with college for those that didn't do the 5 or whatever plan when their kids were born, to make sure that we're also highlighting different scholarship opportunities as they come along.
Absolutely. Those discussions are happening in our individual meetings. We kind of go through the cost of attendance for certain colleges. We talk about merit scholarships based on GPA or test score if a student submits. We talk about FAFSA, which FY, whoever's listening, is now open.
Yes.
So FAFSA.gov, go home and get online. You know, so the conversations are being had. I know Mr. Sisk and I have a shared document where to find scholarships.
Yes.
So those outside scholarships, we make sure that we share those resources as well. I wanted to go back to one thing you said a second ago, Ms. Lee. You talked about courses. The other thing that we talk about when we're meeting with students during that course selection time is balance.
Yes.
Balance is a word that we talk a lot about, and I end my meetings actually this school year like, okay, senior, you know, I know it's senior year, balance, 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 but also balance in the course rigor. And, you know, every year I see a student that wants to take 5 APs, and we're struggling with 2 that we have this year. So those conversations are also being had, making sure that it's the appropriate class, it's the appropriate rigor with all the other extracurricular activities that student is participating in.
Does that conversation also include parents? Because I have talked to several students, and they are stressed to the max, trying to make sure that they take the APs and do all the things and get in the right places. So I don't know if that conversation may be stretching over to parents to talk about balance, and maybe, you know, not saying that parents are pushing their kids, but sometimes the pressure is real. And
They are supposed to sign the form, but
yeah.
From
I mean, you signed it, but I mean, do you really know what that means?
Right.
Yeah, and I think just from my own, again, anecdotally, it's sometimes I wonder if it's the students pushing themselves or the parents pushing the students, or the
Yes.
students pushing the parents to push the students. Like, it's hard to say, like,
Yeah.
who is really who's sort of motivating that, but that is something that I think that, and not just at Ladue, but sort of nationally, that's been a conversation now for several years about this, you know, the pressure that appears to be on these, or is, not even appears, but is on these young students to, you know, take 47 AP classes. And I always tell kids, you don't have to take 47 AP classes and have a 39 on your ACT.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay, you know, but there's a mentality there. And I think that one of the things that we try and do is say, we understand where that mentality and we understand where that pressure comes from, but try and meet the student again at their level and say, if it's appropriate for you, it's appropriate for you. You know, some kids can take, I don't know how they do it because I couldn't do it, you know, they can take 5 AP classes and it's challenging for them, but it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
Whereas some kids can take 1 AP class and that might be overwhelming. So again, trying to meet the student at where they are in that process, and really I think having the conversation at the individual level about what's appropriate for you. And I think, again, I just go back to when Dr. Red and I are just working with the students one-on-one, I think that's the single most important piece that we can do is be having those conversations one-on-one and talking about scholarships and financial aid and stress and all of the things that sort of encompass this. You know, as Dr. Whipke said, we've got these 3 pillars that seem like they're very separate from each other, but the reality is that they're interconnected. So.
And then I have one last question. I promise this is it, and turn the mic off. ACT testing. So I still hear students as juniors taking the ACT for the first time. And I know some of our middle schoolers are taking the ACT. So how do we prepare our students to be ready to proceed? And at what point do we introduce it?
So we encourage all of our students, once they're kind of at the midpoint of Algebra 2, so that is generally junior year, to take the ACT for the first time. We appreciate and thank the district. We give vouchers to all juniors, so they should be getting them, I believe, in another month. So every junior will get a free ACT voucher. We give out the ACT prep book. We say one per Ladue career, and so they have that. That's the new enhanced ACT version this year. We also have partnered in the springtime with Mr. Brett Kleitz, and he offers free sessions for our students to prepare them for ACT. You know, yes, I've heard, Ms. Lee, of students very anxiously taking it, middle school, and, you know, ultimately we want students to be successful, and we're seeing kind of that around the first part of the second semester of Algebra 2, when they've had all of those concepts, to take the tests at that point.
Yeah. Just I just read an article the other day, and I'm happy to try and find that for you and send that if you'd like, but the overwhelming majority of students at the high school level are taking that ACT, that first ACT, either in December of their junior year or in February of their junior year. During our sophomore meeting, that's one of the things that we talk about, is sort of timing about the ACT or SAT, the standardized test, so students sort of understand what that looks like. We do that sophomore meeting, which will be the 9th and 10th grade meeting in January, and then we do our junior meeting. This year, our junior meeting will be at the beginning of November, and we talk to them again about sort of what the timing of those exams looks like. So if they start taking that in December, then they have plenty of opportunities to take it all the way through, I mean, really October from an application perspective. But those are some conversations that we're having with them on those larger scale, on those universals that Dr. Redden mentioned, and even in the one-on-one meetings that we're having with students as well.
And I would add that that is where the alignment with the middle school becomes so important, because depending on what math you take in 7th grade depends what math you take in 8th grade, and depends what math you'll get to by junior year, and whether you're ready, you know, in December of your junior year, or, you know, if you haven't gotten all the way through algebra, you know, so I think that communication is super important. I would also add, kind of in that curricular strand, I think the district has done a really good job with Project Lead the Way and tech-focused coursework that provides an opportunity to have those conversations with students about a career in the trades or a technical school through the small house build, or, you know, the computer engineering classes, or, you know, even in the middle school, that those are real career opportunities that maybe you don't need a 4-year college for. So I think, you know, we've kind of set ourselves up to have those, have meaningful conversations with students who are gravitating towards that type of coursework.
Well, Marissa, you just stole what I was going to say around the math, but I will also give a plug to Derek. He's got some ACT support through community education as well that you all have supported, and trying to give kids as much exposure to being prepared to take the ACT as possible.
And just on that note, and I think that's also one of the things that's challenging too, is because our students start hearing ACT, 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 and then, wait a minute, what's the ACT, and should I be doing that as a freshman or a sophomore? So I think that's one of the things too that we have to find that balance of, are we over ACTing it, for lack of a better phrase, or are we doing what's right for the student where they are at that individual time? So.
I just wanted to thank you both for being here, and to be frank, there should be 10 more of each of you. And I'm not trying, and I agree that, like, kids are under a lot of pressure, but I would rather them have the access, and I don't even want the choice of the guidance. I would want college and career to be so pervasive throughout the district, the same way that we have PE for every student, the same way that we have math, you know, an art component. And so, and for me, this really is an equity issue. My kids are far younger. My eldest is in 4th grade, so we're not there yet. However, you know, and I'm sure you guys see this, the families of means will get exactly what they need at the right times, in the right amount, whether or not the district is providing it. They are, if the district is, great, they'll use it. If it's not, they're just going to go right around it. And it's always that way for everything, whether it's private tutoring or private coaching in a sport or whatever it may be. And I think particularly with this, because one of my favorite things about being on the board is high school graduation. And everyone's got a big smile, it's so special, it's wonderful, but what is the day after? What is the month after? And so that's really sweet. When the kids come off the stage, they walk over to Mr. Griffith, they get their picture taken. God willing, they don't do any backflips. And so when I see that and then I wonder, it's like, my God, like, I really hope, because they are out from under our wing. At that point, we've lost them. That we can't help them anymore. And so, and the world is a very difficult place when you're out of high school and you're legally an adult. So I really hope they're on the right track. And so what I really want, and so that's where I would love for this to be, yes, I'm glad that there's an effort to get it into the middle school, but just like with parent-teacher conferences, as a parent, you almost don't even see it as an option. You're like, oh yeah, I've got to book a time. Almost the same thing, that there will be a college counselor, and physically that's impossible because there's only 2 of you. And that's not fair. So I really appreciate the work and the effort that you're both putting in. I just don't think it's physically possible for us as a district with just 2 individuals to deliver the services that are necessary that other people are acquiring through private avenues. And I think that's within our own district, not just at private schools where they may dedicate more resources to it. So that's where, and I appreciate Jennifer's comment in terms of if we compare ourselves to other school districts, the problem is our kids are not just competing against other kids from other public school districts. When you're out there in the world, you're competing against everyone. And when you're in college, people really don't care where you went to high school and how prepared you were to get there. And how financially able you are to continue staying on that path. And so I appreciate the outreach and everything you guys are doing. I would love to have you picking the courses for kids and guiding them on that. To say, hey, freshman year, you know what, it starts now. And so this is what we're gonna look at. Without saying like, are you going to Mizzou, are you going to Kansas? Let's talk about your family's financial situation. Let's have those conversations now. What can we do as a freshman to make sure that financially we're lining up for scholarships or internships or things that will lead to that? I don't know, it's just like retirement. Ideally you start saving the first day you work. It's gonna make that transition a lot easier, not only financially, but also a lot less stress as you near that big day. And that's what I think about those kids at graduation. Like, my God, this is great. They made it. They graduated from high school. But boy, I hope they're ready for what's next, because we can't help them after. And so, by the way, I really appreciate you had a subtle Animal House reference in there. You called it double secret testing. Yeah, which is kind of appropriate for a college counseling meeting. But I know that's not fair to you to say, hey, tell us what you need to offer that level of support. But I just wanted you to know that, like, this is the hill I will die on, because I truly believe this is the big equity issue. It's great inside Ladue, but once they're outside, the world can be a very tough place, especially if you're not ready for it. And we have so many supports here while they're still students, but your job is for when there no longer are those touch points. And that's really tough. So it's really, what can we do to work closely with CNI, with student services, to put you guys in charge of a much larger ship is really what I would love to see happen. So I'm grateful for everything you're doing, but I would love to see it on a much larger, more pervasive scale, where every family's just like, my God, I see them all the time. Like, we're in 5th grade. Like, why are we talking about this? But they're gonna be so glad when it's senior year and they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that we started this conversation when my kid was 11. So that is my big soapbox for tonight, but I am so, so grateful for you both and the work you are doing. and I'm going to continue to bug Dr. Whipke with the limited time that we have him on how we can more robustly support your mission, because that's absolutely what it is. This is what we're sending those kids out of our district with. So thank you. I'm really grateful for you both. I just want more of you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. And, you know, it's even bigger than us, too. I've been using the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And it really does. It takes the Miss Keltners, it takes the Mrs. Roccos, and our administration team and our administration team on the Hill. We just are very appreciative, and your board. And so it takes all of us to get there. So we're just two, like you said, in what, 1,400 students here. So
Yeah.
it's really the efforts of all of us, but we appreciate the credit, but thank you.
No,
I
thank you.
appreciate
Well, at 1,400 here, 4,300 in the district.
Oh, wow,
So,
yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Chad, Diana, thank you very much for your presentation. We really appreciate your time. So a little round of applause, right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of the administration on the Hill, how long will we be on the Hill, right? So we're ready to segue. How do you like?
Yes,
Was that an
that
okay
was
segue?
excellent,
Okay.
excellent. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you both.
Diana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Dr. TJ.
All right, Recording and Clark team, welcome. You got to hear a lot tonight.
Good evening. I'm Greg Goebel. We've all met. Some of the people here have not. Our team is going to introduce themselves as we go on. I'd like to start with the picture that's up on the screen right now and the reassurance that we've already shared with you that if you do choose to rehab that building, it's not going to look like that when it's done. It's going to look like the facility you deserve. The heating and air conditioning is going to work, and it's going to be a nice place to live in and for the community to share with. So having said that, next slide, please. We're going to introduce ourselves as we go, so we can just go on to the next. Why don't you, Rick, speak to that?
Yeah, I can, just our agenda for tonight. The first thing we're going to do is kind of go through some of the options we've been looking at, starting all the way back in our interview. We had several options, and over the course of the meetings we've had last week, we kind of narrowed it down, if we think, to 2 options, and there's some kind of subcategories to that we'll talk about. And then Aaron will be going over the feedback from those meetings. And then we have a draft of the space program. So we kind of take all the information that we gathered on the spaces you need and start looking at the sizes of those rooms and kind of what is that coming out as far as a total building size. At the end, I'm going to go over some of the work we've been doing behind the scenes with our engineering teams and some things we're working on, touch on the overall schedule, and then look at our next steps from tonight until the next board meeting. One of our goals we're trying to do is kind of get to the conclusion of the pre-design at that next meeting and hopefully have a decision on which our path forward so that we can really get going into design and get in the ground when you want to next summer. So.
Next slide, please. And so as a high-level overview, we've all reviewed most of these slides, but I think it's worth sharing for those that haven't been in the conversations that you have a complex site with many challenges. Part of it is the circulation, and the administrative center is part of why the circulation works the way that it does. We are working not only on providing opportunities for a new building, but also to help work on the site circulation so that it works and flows better for you and is more safe for the kids that are on the campus. We had shared from the beginning that we don't have any preconceptions about the right solution for this exercise. We had a number of them initially, and I think it's become clear as the discussion has unfolded that we're leaning primarily to 2 schemes, and I'll talk about those in just a second. We're still open. The dialogue will continue. There's some things that are starting to become apparent that I think I'll share right now, which is that we have a budget that we understand for you. We have a schedule, and maintaining the budget will require us to maintain the schedule. So we're going to continue to push on that aspect of it. So we don't want to stretch the construction schedule out and have you spend more dollars on time instead of getting into the building more quickly. Next slide, please. Those 4 schemes that we had talked about initially are illustrated. We have eliminated 2. It's become clear in the conversation that the fields are important. All of the recreational spaces on the campus are constantly in use. Anything that we do to take away from that would be a subtraction that nobody wants to have. So we're focusing primarily on A and C. I will share with you that as we continue this conversation, we have talked with Mr. Noonan down at his building, and we understand a little bit more about all the things that are going on there. That's still an open discussion, but I'll tell you there's a lot of complicated pieces down there. And add to that that if you choose to operate on the C site, there's a demolition phase that would have to occur and a movement of the facilities department to someplace else. All of those will be a challenge both to the budget and to the schedule. So if you're asking us as design professionals, we're leaning more and more to a position that a renovation or a rework of the A site probably will work better for you long term. But again, we have no preconceptions about which the right choice is. Next slide. Again, to my comment earlier on about the building and its current limitations, we can fix those without a doubt. It will look different, it will present itself different. We're going to be forward-leaning in incorporating spaces that will serve your needs well, but also will make it possible for students to take advantage of them over the course of a day. We already have some ideas about how that might work. I think that's a little bit understated. I think A is going to wind up filling the entire void space between there and the wing of the classroom part of the building there. It will be connected and will allow people to move back and forth between the building over the course of the day in ways that you want it to do so. It probably will need to be at least partly a two-story scheme. We don't think going into the ground is the right thing to do, but rather to go up so that you'll essentially have a three-story building that will be one down and one up and off the middle part of it. And we'll show you some diagrams that'll reflect how that might work. There's about 11 or so feet of grade between your building that you're currently living in and the school adjacent to it. So there will be some ramps and some things that have to be accomplished in order to make it work well, but we think there's a way to do that. Next slide, please. The options as it relates to that, you can go back there just for a second. Obviously, we can rebuild and then renovate and add an addition onto the existing building. We also can take that building down and start from scratch. Obviously, your timeline and the schedule gets dragged out if that's the case. We also are going to work on increasing the traffic flow and its smoothness of the traffic flow on Highdown Lane. And we have promised to everybody involved that we will do a parking count for the entire campus to make sure the parking you need for it to work well is in the places that they'll need to be in order for that to work the way that it does. Next slide, please. Again, we think C does provide some great opportunities for you later on, including that you can later expand onto the future school expansion site that's indicated there. But C brings with it a lot of baggage, and we're going to go into detail so that you, and by the way, high-level cost estimating is part of the exercise we're going to do. So when we get an idea about how these two things might work, we're going to assign a dollars per square foot value to those so that you understand what the delta is between reworking the old building and making an addition and having a new one down on the C site, which will then have to incorporate moving facilities and doing all the things related to demolition of that building. So at the end of the day, we think it's a relatively large number, but you need to know what it is. Next slide. And I think I've spoken to those already. We are, at some level, master planning on your campus, trying to make, some of you had made comments that previous boards have made decisions, for example, unloading a lot of property that turns out in retrospect maybe to have been a bad call, and everybody wants to make sure you make good decisions at this point. We're going to try and give you the information it takes to make those decisions in the way they should be. Next slide. We also did, by the way, look again over on the West Campus. There is a volume there that was the old pool volume. It can solve some of your needs. It's clear, though, that there are a lot of moving parts on that campus, and adding more to them is something you should consider about whether it will work well for you or not. It seems as if, like I say, there's a lot of stuff moving around there, and adding more perhaps is not a good idea. That's just an opinion. Next slide. Covered it already.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I have personally had the opportunity to meet all of you recently, but for those who I haven't met or anyone virtually, I'm Erin Muller, Associate Vice President with Cordig Clark, working heavily in the programming and to understand your needs and wants. So we had 3 meetings last week, and I want to thank you all. I know everyone's time is very limited, especially at the beginning of the school year. And for those of you that were just in one, I want to give a special thanks to Jennifer for your time for sitting in all 3. But outside of Jennifer, I just wanted to share with everyone here that there was a lot of overlap, which was expected. There was not anything that scared us or that surprised us too much. You guys are on track with the trending needs of most administrations throughout districts regionally and nationally for the needs, the ones where technology is going, how conferencing is working, things like that. But what we heard over and over from not only within one meeting, but across all three, were the separation of public and private spaces. Areas that the community or staff and faculty from the schools can come in, have touch points, and then leave without coming too far into the building. One, we want to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time, but we also want to be mindful and respectful of the administration and the departments that are having very intimate and private conversations. We understand that the current building is a challenge sometimes to have levels of acoustic and visual privacy, so we do want to upgrade those. That was a request across all departments. And really going to a shared flexible space mentality. We understand that real estate is at a premium and the cost of real estate is just getting higher these days. So we want to ensure that the spaces that we create for everyone are multifunctional, that we're not designing spaces that sit empty throughout the day or that are used for a one-off or a once in a quarter event. We heard a lot about departmental adjacencies. So we want to be very mindful of that and how those are situated throughout the building to make it easier. You all are a greatly collaborative group, and we want to make sure that your space continues to facilitate that. And then the challenges that you have today, try to alleviate those. Again, touching on the acoustical and visual privacy, there is a lot of secure information that happens daily in this administration building. A secure entry. You guys have done a lovely job with the school buildings, building these for the students, but we also think that there's a direct connection with a secure entry for the administration staff. And as Greg mentioned, improved exterior circulation. No matter where you are in the middle school site, we do understand the challenges of the moving parts and pieces at different times throughout the day to make it safe and secure as you're moving about around the students and make it safe for the students and faculty as well. So, as I mentioned in our meeting, what we do, our next step, the next slide please, is to take what we've heard and we put together kind of this Excel spreadsheet and we call it our program space needs. And this is our first layer of feedback to understand what you heard that we're hearing it correctly. This is the first pass of many, nothing is set in stone, these are numbers of paper, but what this allows us to do is to start to really understand the size of the spaces. So as we're looking at different areas on the site, we need to understand how large areas we need. What does it mean to put an addition on a 9,000 square foot building? What does it mean to tear down that 9,000 square foot building and start from scratch? What does it mean to move to a facility site that's very spread out right now? So on the left-hand column, we've created a separation of department and area, listed the space that each area will have, primarily big picture, the quantity, assigning a square foot for each space right now. There are some trends that we're looking at. So for this exercise, everyone has the same size office outside of the superintendent. This is just a quick first pass to understand where we're at, overall big picture, and primarily most administration assistants, we're calling it a workstation, but it could be an alcove. There's a lot of different moves. All it means is that it's not four walls with a door that's private. Now there are some exceptions to even that one, but I want to be respectful for everyone's time, and if there's questions about it, I'm happy to answer, but I do want to go through. And then I've broken down each department. In the adjacency and comments, I tried to write down all the adjacency that were requested. So we look at building entry, secure vestibule, waiting in pre-function, whether that's 1 or 2 spaces, potentially a private waiting. We heard that there is some safety and security for family or community members visiting the building, that this could be a way to alleviate and help with some of that. A welcome desk, a storage area for the deliveries. The administration building receives a lot, and it's not even internal mail transmissions, but the Amazon, the USPS, all of that's currently coming in the front door and sometimes overwhelming the front desk. A mail room, and then we also talked about a display area. Whether or not that would be something that we would want to just share the history or past yearbooks or something that would really engage of who is Ladue, who are we, where have we been, and where are we now. We think that could be really powerful as a message right when you walk into the administration building. Public gather areas. These are a lot of the shared spaces that we talked about. So looking at the boardroom, a closed session area, professional development, and large meeting. So right now, that 4,200 square foot number, we need to test that. What we heard was the amount of people you guys would like to occupy during your large professional development times, and that's how we determined that. But it will get tested. But all of those live within that 4,200, meaning that there's going to be ways to divide up that space and use that space differently. So throughout the day and the weeks, it's being utilized multiple times. And it's not 4,200 square feet that is only used a couple times a month. Then we also start looking at different sized meeting rooms, a public restroom, a kitchenette, AV closet, storage. This is also supporting that public-facing entity that we want to provide. Breaking down, this is alphabetically by department: business finance, communications, community education, working with the numbers that we were given. If we're slightly off, I apologize, we will get that corrected, but right now we're looking at the numbers that we heard as well as the phone tree that we have. Going down throughout, pretty much it's just standard, trying to have equality across the departments. Superintendent is a little bit of an outlier. The meeting room, we felt necessary that Dr. Whippy, your predecessor, would have their own room directly within the department. Technology, we're looking at right now, Dr. Brown, to bring yourself and your administration assistant over to the administration center. But after touring the space that you all have here, you have a very nice space that, yes, it definitely could be recreated, but it does come at a price tag. So we wanted to look at, okay, if we could do this with you and your assistant, and what does that look like? And then we can run test models. So did want to point that out. Print shop, right now we're looking at 1,100 square feet. It's a bump of about 300 square feet from what currently is being utilized. If the option to move the administration center to another part of the middle school, maybe the print shop stays where it is, that's an option to save on some of that square footage. And then shared support. This is basically another area of shared space for you all, but this is more in the private sector of the building, where a break room and a lounge, wellness mother's room, a couple work rooms we talked about that are spread out, that could be shared across the departments instead of every department running their own large format copier printer. A shared records room that could also facilitate as storage. And I want to put a key in this is that we still anticipate that you guys are going to utilize other buildings for storage. The amount of storage needed across all the departments is really great. We were at the 5th grade center, we were at the facilities. We don't recommend building super large storage spaces with the dollar figure that we're given. We think that there's bigger priorities than larger storage, that there's some good spaces, especially in the 5th grade center, that I think we can incorporate into storage. And then again, there's gonna be some small conference meeting rooms and breakout space. And what these back-of-house conference meeting rooms can also dub as is future growth. Maybe we got that number wrong. Maybe we need to elevate it, but we do want to talk about at some point the future growth across the administration and turning a conference room into an office at a later date if need be.
I'd like to just share a couple points if I could. This is still an open dialogue, so anybody that's looking at the program and saying, well, that's not really what I want, shouldn't assume that's what we're going to do. We put a first wrap around this thing, and now everybody gets a chance to review it and to make a case for why they belong here or there, or why I shouldn't move, or I should have another option to that. This is a dialogue that will continue until we get buy-in from everybody involved, and then that will become a more finalized document.
Absolutely. And what this really entails is, sometimes it's hard to understand, what does that 680 square foot of human resources really look like? So this next step is, once we have this a little bit more refined, we'll start putting it into planning diagrams. So you guys can start to see in plan form what this is looking like. All right, next slide, please. And then the final column of space within the administration center is the building support, the back of house things that are needed for every building, no matter where we go. And then facilities and maintenance, after speaking greatly with a large number of people, the request was overwhelmingly that facilities department stays separate from the administration center and that facilities remains with facilities and they all are together. So we are tracking that currently. If that changes, it's just some more numbers that we can easily put in. But what becomes really important right now is looking at that program total. So we're just shy of 20,000 square feet before we put in circulation. So circulation standard is a 30% factor, 35% factor. Now we can look at ways to reduce that a little bit. We won't really get less than 30. But right now at this early point, we want to maintain that 35 and be planning to that 35. So that puts us at 26,000 square feet. So that really gives us a high end of where we're going to start looking at footprint-wise, and whether that means 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, how that impacts the site, how that impacts your budget. We will start immediately looking at high-level cost estimates, high-level just cost per square footage, and what does this mean?
All right, I just want to go over a couple other things we've been working on behind the scenes with our engineering team. We've been doing an analysis of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems in the existing building. If we move forward with option A, or even if you move out of the building, the building's going to need to be maintained. We're looking at some structural analysis of the building with the modifications we might be making, looking at the addition that we're talking about with option A between the building and the school happens that a lot of the utilities to the building come into that area. So we're studying that and trying to get ahead of that so we can understand the costs associated with that. As Greg mentioned earlier, we're looking at improving potentially high down lanes. There's a culvert there. There's some panels, electrical spectrum panels that we're going to study. That is it feasible from a cost perspective, potentially move that and widen up that road. And then we just got approval to proceed with the survey. And as mentioned earlier, we've been meeting with Mike Noonan's team and starting to understand everything he has over there and how that could work if that ends up getting relocated. So you can go to the next slide. And I'm just going to hit on this real quick. I know you can't read this. This is just the overall schedule that we included with our proposal. But if you go to the next slide, it kind of zoom in. And this had us starting a little bit earlier at the end of August. And if you hit one more button forward. Yeah, so we actually started on 9/11 basically. And the pre-design phase will move a little bit from what's shown here because we're working between the board meetings. So I had this meeting tonight, and then as mentioned earlier, we're trying to get all our work done for pre-design by the next board meeting. And right now this schedule was kind of developed generically at the time, not knowing which option we're doing. So it's roughly shown that we could go out to bid in May or June. And if we can tighten that up, we will, because we know it's important to get some of that preliminary work done during the summer when there's no students. And we'd like to see the site set up safely for students when they come back in August. So that'll be a high priority, what that work that gets done over the summer and what that looks like. If you go to the next slide, This is kind of a summary of kind of what we see that we're going to be doing from today till the next board meeting. And the items are blue is where we're having interaction with the school district and the leadership. So next week, we're kind of looking at as a heads down kind of in the office. And now that we've got a kind of a direction with the two options and really start working on what those different concepts and options look like, kind of further refining the program that Erin went over today. We've been doing field investigation. We'll do a little bit more of that. And then looking at potentially the first week of October, the 6th, starting to have some meetings with the school leadership and the board. We can talk about what that looks like, if that's another series of meetings like we had last week, or how we do that. But that'll probably be the first opportunity to start to see some of these options. The following week, doing some refinements. And then we have an estimator that's going to be working on behind the scenes, kind of along with the development of these options. And we'll start to see some preliminary numbers that a week of October on the 21st and 23rd. And then our goal would be to have some meetings and basically have the cost that we can present somewhere between the 24th and 27th to the board and the leadership, so that when we come on the 29th, everybody will have seen that, and hopefully there'll be kind of a consensus on which direction we want to go at that point. So there's some other details that'll be going on between there, but that's kind of a high-level overview of kind of what we think we'll be doing over the next month. And one other thing I thought about is during our meetings, if we want to start scheduling some tours of some other schools. I know we talked about the Fort Zumwalt Professional Development Center that has a lot of some similar things to what this building will have, and I think some of you have seen that. But that's just one example. We could look at some different buildings so you can start seeing that. It may also help you make some decisions on some of those things. So that's basically it, and I think I can close.
I'd like to just add one thing, and you can correct me if you think I get this wrong. When we look at this, it's pretty clear that given the program scale and the A scheme, you're going to hit your budget on that thing. But when we start considering C and add in demolition costs and movement costs and all the stuff that has to happen to make that site buildable, and then realize that you're not renovating anything, you're going to start from scratch, the number's going to be a big delta. And so my sense of it is, before the next time you see this stuff, we're going to have focused on the A building and show you all the potential options about how to make it the building you need, and then apply square footage numbers both to that and to what we understand C building would be, but just from a square footage standpoint, because I think it's perhaps $4 or maybe as much as $5 million more. And I'm not convinced that you have the stomach for that. And if I'm wrong, then we'll put more energy into the second scheme and considering it more fully. But we know we can do anything you want in a brand new building, so it's not really a challenge in that regard. So it's really up to you to steer us on that.
Well, Greg, I just want to add one more thing, and I know Jeff would want to add this as well. If we do have our maintenance and we move out, we have to have some place to go with it.
Exactly.
And so there could be right now we, lease our bus depot, that we would end up having an ongoing cost, which I think is very relevant to this topic. So it's not just a one-time cost, it's an ongoing cost.
I just have a couple quick questions. And I know, and obviously there's always a financial component, but in terms of choosing between A and C, which decision needs to come first? Is it the master plan for that campus, or is it choosing option A or C, and then kind of designing around A or C and master planning around that? Or master plan is optimally this, and then kind of we fit it in there?
Well, I would suggest we could do it either way that works better for you, but what I will say is that when there is such what I consider to be a disparity in cost between the two of them, it starts to become a more obvious choice. And if there are people in the room that can convince me otherwise, then I'd be happy to follow that course. I'm a designer at heart, and I'd love to design a building on the seaside for you. It gives me more flexibility to do things that I know you'll like. But at the end of the day, we are responsible to the communities we live in to spend the tax money that we've given them in the right way. And so again, I'm looking for steering on your part, because I'll do whichever you like and be happy with it. We love our job, and so if you want a really nice design on the seaside, we can do that.
No, and I think, and that's where, and for me, obviously, this is not my money. To no greater extent than I'm simply a resident of the district. And so in terms of being a responsible steward, there's that component, but then I also think for the community, most people in the community don't ever set foot in the admin building. So I think to the extent that it is seen as part of a larger project that does generate an improvement in higher utilization of the fields and the space that we have there, and then this is simply a component of that larger project. I'm just thinking that in terms of larger community buy-in and enthusiasm, it would be helpful to see as we go through the master planning, and if we do choose A, which is less dramatic, but certainly can be no less effective, what then does that help us also afford that benefits the community? It would just be nice to have that in part of the process.
I think I can maybe make you a little bit more secure in the way we're talking about this, and that we think even if you go to the A site, we're going to develop a lot of components of the building that are front-facing and about students and the community, so that there's a way to get into this building so that they can use those parts of the building that they would share with you more regularly and more openly. So there's a front-facing piece of this that's about students, and the public will understand it that way. So it's kind of a halfway, but it's still partly the direction you're talking about. We think a master planning exercise will be part of what we do. We're going to fully consider, and we've had a conversation with the facilities department about what elements they have within their building that perhaps they don't need anymore, and that will have an impact. As I had said a little bit earlier, this is an ongoing conversation, and we haven't yet collected enough information for the decisions to be made about the right course, but we think that is master planning. We're going to try and fill in some blanks for you to make it easier to choose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's a great time, but looking at it, I mean, it's about five and a half weeks away, because it was October 29th that we were looking to take a vote, so.
And we intend to show up, they'll be preliminary, but we will have visuals to start looking and thinking about. Like, it's challenging for people to live in a building like the one you're in now and be able to understand that it can be a lot more than it is. So we're going to start giving you some ideas about what that means. And I think people will rest easier once they know that the air conditioning and heating system is going to work, and that the mildew is going to go away, and that they're going to have the space they need to do. And by the way, we've looked, there is room for a loading dock down there where that secondary entrance. And there's enough flat surface there for you to actually move things in and out of there. So if the print shop stays there, there's a way to get their materials in and out of the building a lot more comfortably than it is now. And Aaron made a comment about circulation in the building. That 35% counts. That means you can move things around without banging into each other while you're doing it. So not much of that's going to fall off. You need the ability to move around comfortably in the building, especially if you're going to invite kids and the public in.
No, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does it make sense for the board either not tonight, but maybe sometime before the 29th to have a discussion about the cost benefit of that new build, only in terms of saving resources and time on your end? I can imagine we would be the beneficiaries of you not spinning your wheels and spending a lot of time on something that's not going to happen, and I'm sure you would also, when it comes to the end of it. So would that be helpful for us to have? I mean, if we're gonna talk to our CFO, and if it's gonna come down to the money, I think that's gonna be a separate conversation than looking at the two options. And I do think we made the decisions. Okay, we made no decisions. I believe the conversation has been away from what were options B and D to preserve the fields, but I don't think that we're talking about necessarily having those fields be attached to this project. So in terms of public opinion of it, I don't know that I don't think that's gonna be swayed by public use of the field. That was my understanding.
No, I mean, I think it's more, at least for me in the conversations just I've had within the community, because yes, we do need a new admin center, but I don't think, people don't engage with it the same way that they do school buildings or other community assets that, that do support recreation. And so I think even if it's not part of this, if we are able to say, hey, look, we went and did this exercise and it's part of a phase that we would like to pursue, and we have identified all of these things, because in this situation, we've been fortunate to not have to go out for a bond measure. And so to the extent that we can continue to support these capital improvements without having to go get additional revenue from the community, would be great. And if this then helped identify those to give the community, okay, I see, they're doing this for the admin, and then this is sort of the next component for the physical plant. I can just see how that generates more community support for this project.
Part of this is a public outreach thing, and we're going to provide the materials for you to do that. And Jennifer, to your question, yes, we do think we need to talk to you in this next phase. And what we're going to present you is the numbers as we understand them, and start to share with you what they mean. And at the end of the day, this is your choice. We don't make those decisions. We try to give you enough information to make good ones.
I had a question, and I thought, and I don't know how this was supposed to happen, but we only were in the meetings that we were in. So I really have no idea what the thoughts are for the rest of you that weren't in the meetings that I was in. And I know Jennifer was in all the meetings, but there was no report. I mean, so I don't know where we all land.
That was really a deliberate choice, and it was to make sure that we never got too many people together in the room at the same time. But we had her as a balancing component where if something had come up that was a friction point, she had the opportunity to address that with you and hence probably get past it. I don't think there was much.
Nobody addressed, I mean, at least in the meeting I was in with you, was similar to the other ones. Nobody said, I really want C, I want B, I want D. When I said we kind of moved away, it's because I think less of the conversation, I don't think I heard any conversation that really focused on B or D. But that's why I said, well, we didn't make a decision about that. And we've been talking tonight about A and C, but I'm happy to give a report.
I guess I'm saying, I mean, we could not have all been in a meeting or else it would have been a board meeting. So that just could not be, but it would be helpful to know how everybody else was thinking, what the discussions were about how we as the board are leaning towards the project. I mean, I know different departments came into different meetings to say, you know, I need 6 officers, I need this, I need that. But in terms of just our understanding of what this project is, it would be helpful to understand where we are as a group.
I can partially answer that. I was pleased and surprised at how little friction there was. I mean, you were all mostly aligned on most things. And of course, the department heads had different opinions and ideas about how they want their department to run, which is natural. But you guys are going to kind of ride shotgun on that process. I didn't think there were any friction points. I mean, everybody agreed that the fields were important and couldn't be encroached upon. We're probably going to nibble at the edges of some of them because you're going to need to get your parking numbers up some. But they'll stay mostly intact, and all of them as sports venues will still be capable of supporting the things they do now. We all agreed that the site circulation and safety as it relates to the site was a critical component of what we had to manage. And the rest of it is basically just subject to budget and your choices that you make. And so, again, as a designer, I've always thought it was kind of funny because I can design anything you can afford, but the choice is yours to decide how much you can afford. And we all are very energetic and enthusiastic about doing whatever it is you want. More is better as far as we're concerned, but we're not going to steer you that way. You're responsible for the dollars, not us.
Yeah, and I don't think it was friction is what I'm leaning towards. It's just really just getting an understanding of where we are. Are we leaning towards A as a group, or are we leaning towards C as a group?
I do want to take a couple
So I'll
minutes.
offer this. For me, I'm leaning towards A. I mean, as you shared, you can create something out of nothing, and you can create something out of the space that's over there. So I'd offer what I don't want lost is what Dr. Whipke alluded to, and I don't want to misinterpret that you all shared in hearing from the current facilities director, but the reality is trying to move that department to a neutral space in the interim isn't the interim, it's in perpetuity. We'd be moving the facility space to a place where we have to pay for upkeep of that space away from the district. There's not a Ladue space that we could move facilities to. And so for me, it becomes a non-starter. And I will tell you that as I sat in the meeting through A and C, those were the two places, B and D weren't options for me. And I'm sharing this just as to Keisha's query about where we all fell. For me, A is the place to be. And I certainly asked during our conversation, you alluded to the fact that we can create what it needs to be. And so I think in the presentation, the spaces that department folks asked for could occur in that space. You could design something that will last past our tenure in these roles and our tenure quite conceivably in the physical plane. So to that end, I would unequivocally say that A is where I land because I think it makes the most sense financially, in perpetuity, not just to the space, but in terms of what facilities is going to require. So if the query is that, that's sort of where I land because I think it makes the most sense for taxpayers, for the space we want, and for those who come after us, both kids and adults.
In response, I can offer to you that if you choose to move into A, it doesn't preclude you from moving facilities later.
Yeah.
You can then move out of the building that we renovate and create a new school component that you don't anticipate right now. So it doesn't close that option off for you. And again, we thought it was not a bad idea to consider having facilities someplace else. But once that happens, you have to consider how you manage your vehicle fleet and whether you're maintaining them and how you combine them or don't combine them with other things that are within the district. And so I think it's a bigger question, and we'll pursue it as far as you want. But knowing what I understand the budget to be, I think that's a heavy lift is all I would say.
Well, I guess the additional question or inquiry is, I was in the first meeting, and there was a lot of questions to be answered about what is in the facilities and what it would take, and that information has not been provided.
We can certainly outline that. I would say that's an incomplete discussion because we spent perhaps an hour and a half maybe there poking at things, and then we went over and looked at the other buildings as well. So we have a better understanding of what's there, and there are, for sure, a number of components in that building that don't seem to be necessary anymore. But again, that's above my pay grade. I think what has to happen, which I have suggested, is that we sit down as a group and talk about that to determine if there are enough parts that can be discharged that would then make it more flexible to do what we're talking about. So the answer is, if you want kind of an overview as a written document, we can provide that. We're still collecting some of that information at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to make a complete decision, it would be helpful to understand what all is in the building, and what would have to be moved or could be kept, or we talked about moving it to the back and possibly the front of the building is something different. So I'm not sure. Like I said, sometimes when you're in the first meeting, I don't know what happened or what the conversation was in subsequent meetings or things that might have came up in the first meeting that triggered a different conversation in meeting 2 or 3. So that's just what I'm seeking.
Happy to, as a team, continue to examine the issues that we found. And I think Mike Noonan was pretty good at explaining some things to me that I certainly knew, but being reminded was not bad. I mean, it's, for example, that you do your own snow plowing. And so if you have snow plows, then now you have to maintain the snow plows and you have to have the ice storage or the salt storage. And there's a whole range of options that go along with that require a number of things that are in that building. And almost everything else they do is related to that in some way or another. And so there is a discussion. You've got a huge wood shop there that my sense is doesn't get used in the way that was intended originally, because you had real carpenters building things all the time in that wood shop. I'm not the one to decide whether those are still a fit for you or not. We can have a conversation about it and then give you that information, and it'll help you decide, I would suppose. Okay.
I have a question mostly for Dr. Macy and Mr. Noonan. The print shop in the basement, is there room somewhere else in the district just to move that thing? I think that's a consideration for our total space in this new building or the renovated building.
I think that's really what has brought us here today, is the space is a premium. I mean, when we talk about front-facing spaces, we look at this space, that the last meeting we had to ask some students to quiet down as they were moving on to the Ladue night lights. So I think the scenario is that we're short on space, and we're occupying a lot of spaces during instructional times, in the evenings, non-instructional times. So, I can't think of another space that we could, move the print shop to at this point in time. But I do think that that's really the larger context of why we're here is trying to find that space that we can reallocate and give these types of spaces back to our students.
I would just add, Kimberly would need a voice in this because they work hand in hand with the print shop, the communications department. So if you're considering just moving the print shop, there's ramifications on the entire communications department.
And then there's a related paper storage as well.
That's exactly what I was going to add. So in addition to the print shop, I manage the print shop, and we work very closely with them. There are always questions or challenges, and we also have storage. So we have storage of paper in the print shop, and there's also storage over at the maintenance shed. There's a tremendous amount of storage at the maintenance shed that not only supplies the print shop, but that supplies paper for the entire district.
Didn't know that. Thank you.
I'd love to take you on a tour.
Storage is a big need for almost every department, and so part of this is to get a sense of where the things should be stored, because there are options. The swimming pool space at the Five Center and the maintenance facility, there's storage all over the place. Some of it needs to be more adjacent to the people that are using it, but the longer term stuff can move around a little bit successfully, I think.
I think I heard through the meeting that I was at that we have a lot of paper, a lot more than other maybe districts you have worked with. And is there an opportunity as part of this process? I know that Fern got a grant to do a lot of digitizing of records. Is part of this process maybe trying to figure out how to, or maybe this is not your
Yeah, this
process,
is more for Jeff,
but you know, how to digitize some of those items so that we can limit the amount of storage that we need?
I think that's a great point, and I think it also minimizes the amount of square footage moving forward of space that has to be built out, developed, and/or touched. So I think it's certainly something that we can look into. You know, I know we need to talk to Dr. Wallace and Barb and all the different departments to determine what is the legal threshold that documentation needs to be handled. I know that a lot of our student records need to be handled for the duration of the student's tenure here at Ladue and then X amount of years beyond. So I think that it would be an opportunity for us to see what we could do in terms of reducing the amount of some of those fixed fireproof files for sure.
And we have been working on paper management. We're trying to implement a paper management system. So working with Dr. Crabtree on CNI, just in terms of curriculum cycles, print cycles, as well as Jeff and Mike's team. So we're working on trying to eliminate some of the paper that we store so we can have more of a better process in terms of when the paper comes in and when it's used.
I think one of the points Aaron made is a important one. You can choose to have some of these elements we're discussing land someplace else. And if you do, your building gets smaller or it gets bigger in favor of the public that you're going to be inviting in there. So it's just another series of options that you have to judge for yourself which works best for you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
and your partnership, and we look forward to the next steps.
We've had fun in phase one, so we'll look forward to the next one and talking to you.
Great.
We'll get some descriptive for you of what moving parts are, I think. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. All right, seeing that we've come to the end of our agenda, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Keisha.
Second.
Oh, I'm gonna give it to Amy this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a nice evening.
This is a short one.